Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We are back. Finally, another episode of the Jasmine Minimum Battle series. I know it's been a hot minute since I've been able to post these. Had a little bit of family stuff for a couple weeks where I had to kind of take a break from YouTube, take care of my baby boy while my wife was off in Kazakhstan. Who knows, maybe in one of the live streams we'll talk more about that. But for now, it's time to get back to this action. Just to pick up where we left off previously, we have already completed the Jasmine, Chuck, and Pryce gyms with 56 Pokemon on minimum battles. No shenanigans needed, they get through just fine. Add on to that another 15 Pokemon that have gotten through this section, but they've had to do things like slamming their rare candies and using kind of OPTMs. They're definitely not Pokemon that you're excited to get to this section of the game with, but technically possible. We've had 4 Pokemon fail. I know a lot of people left comments about the Doduo in the last episode. Why didn't you fish for more status luck with the Tri-Attack? And my answer to that was the fact that we already slammed all the rare candies and it was still a range on the Magnemites. Like, it's not like they were easy to get through. And then the Steelix just was going to require a ridiculous amount of luck to get through. So I just felt like it was not working well enough. So we eliminated that Pokemon. Now, one last kind of update about the UI here. We have changed it so that member picks are broken out based on those that are still to be done and those that are completed. This is something that people have been asking for and something that I also felt I needed because I was kind of struggling to figure out, wait, which picks have I done already and which are still out there? So hopefully that makes it a little more clear who is done and who still needs to be done. If you are a channel member and you do not see your pick up there, that means that it's currently not in these systems. So just hit me up with a comment either down below, or you can hit me up on Discord and just let me know if you're having trouble getting your pick in. Today, we are coming back with 13 challengers, and most of these are pretty straightforward. We're coming in with Kingler, then Exeggutor, then Marowak, then we've got all the Hitmons. We've got Lickitung, Kangaskhan, Azumarill, Sudowoodo, Aipom, Dunsparce, and Gligar. And out of these, there's only a couple that I'm really worried about. Like Kingler as a water type, it gets Surf. I think it's going to be fine. Same for Azumarill. Exeggutor has Sleep strats, so I think it's going to be fine. Ground type isn't really that bad in this section, so I think that Marowak's going to be just fine as well. The Hitmons should perform really well in this section because they're just super effective against everything except for Chuck, and even there, they're going to at least have enough moves, I think, to get that one to go. The normal types also haven't been that bad, mostly because they get pretty good coverage. We'll see if that maintains with Dunsparce. I'm not exactly sure, but Lickitung is the other one that's kind of sus given the fact that it's pretty slow. Kangaskhan and Aipom, I think, are just going to get through perfectly fine. I think they have enough coverage. So the 2 Pokemon that I think we actually need to worry about in this episode are Sudowoodo and Gligar. Gligar has that 4 times weakness to ice, which will actually give Pryce a decent chance to stunt on a Pokemon and maybe actually get a victory for once. And then we've got to worry about the Sudowoodo that basically just has a type weakness to everything here. Like, I think we'll have to go to Pryce and try to use rock type moves to take him down. But after that, I mean, Jasmine and Chuck are going to be pretty tough with that Pokemon, I think. So I just don't know if we're actually going to have any shot of getting through. Still, we'll test it fully, starting off with the Kingler. And we've got to throw in a few member picks into this one as well. We can see we've got 19 of them still waiting to be done. Starting with that Diglett. We've already passed Doug Trio so far in the challenge, so we'll make sure to get that one in. Let's also get in that Tentacruel right now, because I think it's going to be a kind of interesting comparison, but as a water type, it probably gets through just fine. Then we have our Unown that is set to always have super effective moves against the opponent. And basically, we were doing that by changing the opponent's typing, which I think is kind of interesting. We'll just see how that actually works. So let's do those 3 today and just see how they actually go. But first, we got to get in with the legit challengers, and we're going to start off with our Kingler. And picking up with Kingler, we got to this section with Surf, Fury Cutter, Stomp, and Harden. We didn't even have to use the Mint Berry when we were up against Morty in the previous section. So now I think it's just time to get into this action and see how it goes. I'm going to lead off by going to Pryce though, because it just kind of makes too much sense with this Pokemon. We resist ice And we don't have the greatest special attack stat. We're more of a physical attacker with this Pokemon. So while we do have Surf, I don't think it's necessarily going to be that great when we get to Jasmine. We'll just have to see. But we probably want a little bit more in our special attack before we go there. So instead, we will make our way to the Rocket Hideout and let's just see how this section actually goes. I don't expect too much difficulty here though, but I will be checking in on how we do against Jed here since we do have to go up against those Magnemites. It's really just a question of how much damage Surf does at this point. So here against Jed's Magnemites, we go for Surf, and at this point at least, we're one-hit KOing. We get a level up and learn the move Guillotine, which I believe in this generation only works if you're at higher levels than your opponent, right? And sure enough, we're not going to be able to use that move unless we're at a higher level than our opponent. So I'm not sure how valuable it actually is to have access to the one-hit KO move here. So I'm actually going to skip Guillotine because once we get later and later in the run, we're just not going to out-level things anymore. Like, the only place I think we could use this and it would actually be effective would be in the Rocket storyline, but even then, I think our other moves are strong enough. But we'll find out if that's the case or not, but for now, I'm just going to skip that move. So we get through Jed just fine with Surf. We're able to now progress, and with that, I think we have no issues here in the Rocket Hideout. Let's make our way straight to the last Executive and move on in this challenge. And sure enough, nothing gave us any difficulty getting to the final Executive, so let's just see how she goes here. She does have a Gloom that has technically super effective moves, but it might not matter. Let's check first on this Arbok though. We're going to go Stomp since it's our strongest move. It's going to be a 2-hit KO and we get a flinch. Nice. That brings out the Gloom. We'll just Stomp on it as well. We get a critical hit one-shot, so we don't even know the range there. That brings out the Murkrow. We'll just keep stomping. Peck doesn't really matter because of our high defense, so we get through nice and easy. So with that done, we can just take care of these electrodes and make our way to Pryce. So Pryce, attempt number 1. Let's just see how he goes here. He's going to lead off with the Seal, of course. We can just stomp on this Pokemon. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we get an easy victory. Out next comes the Dugong. We'll just stick with the Stomp. It looks like a 3-hitter, but a Roar Beam's not very effective, so we should be able to get through just fine. Sure enough, we do. We get to level 30 as Piloswine comes out, and we can just go Surf on this one. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but Blizzard is not going to do anything. As long as he doesn't freeze, we're basically guaranteed to win against this Pokemon. So just like that, we beat Pryce on the first attempt, and we're able to move on in this challenge. Now the question is, will we knock out Jasmine's Magnemites with our Surf? If we can, then we can go straight to Jasmine and just, in theory at least, get a pretty easy victory. But if we can't, then we might need to go down to Chucky Boy first. Either way, we've got to make our way to Cyanwood though, so let's go get that secret potion, wishing of course that we could use it on our own Pokemon. Since everybody knows that secret potions basically raise your stats in battle by 6 stages in every single stat. Still, it looks like we did not do the lighthouse previously, so we'll just take care of this section nice and easy so that we can go and get that secret potion for Jasmine, because we know that that's the way that she actually powers up her Steelix. Using a secret potion is basically on par with giving your Pokemon 99 of every single vitamin in the game, in spite of the fact that usually as the player, you could only at most cap out at 10 vitamins each. Still, we'll let her play her game. Let's go ahead and just tell her that, yeah, we'll go to Cyanwood and pick that up for you. And then we'll run right back here to try our first attempt at Jasmine. Still, before I go to fight Jasmine, let's just see how we do against the randos in the gym here in Cyanwood. Let's see if we can beat the Black Belt Bros. Now, since they have high special defense in this version, we're going to go for Stomp here on the Hitmonlee. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but even with a critical hit, Double Kick didn't do that much, so we get through just fine. Now we've got to take on the Hitmonchan, where I'm just going to stick with Stomp on this one, and it's going to be a 2-hitter after a flinch, so we get a very easy victory there. And let's just clear out the rest of these trainers. I might even just try Chuck while we're here. So it doesn't look like Surf is one-shotting against things like Primeape, but again, that might not actually matter if we can just manage to set up enough and use our Stomp in order to flinch things. That might be all we need. So let's just try Chucky Boy one time just to see. Chuck is going to lead off with his own Primeape. We're going to go for Surf, and this is going to be a 2-hitter, but Karate Chop didn't do that much, only like 14 damage. That brings out the Poliwrath, which we will outspeed. I'm going to Stomp on it. He puts me to sleep, but I had the Mint Berry on, and this looks like a 3-hitter as he just goes Mind Reader after that. So we get a free victory from Chuck, and we get to level 33 before we have to go back and take on Jasmine. And now we've got the Secret Potion. We've got the Surf. I think that we've got pretty good chances of just getting through this. So we'll just come and talk some trash on Chuck with his wife and then teach Kenya how to fly and run back to Jasmine's gym. So it's time for Jasmine attempt number 1 right here. Let's just see how this goes. I'm not even going in with the held item. We might not need one. So let's find out. Jasmine, of course, leads off with her first Magnemite. We're going to go Surf on this Pokemon. That is a 1-hit KO. Let's see how we do on the second Magnemite. Sure enough, it is not a 1-hit KO, and we get knocked out by a single Thunderbolt. So it's pretty clear that that is a range with the Surf. We might need multiple high rolls. Maybe it's just that that was a particularly low roll, but I'm going to make sure to heal up so that I'm on full health. But if we're just getting one-shot by Thunderbolts, then they don't use Thunder Wave, I don't think. So let's just see how this actually goes. We might even have to change up our moveset in order to get through this more consistently. Still, we won't know till we try, so let's just try this again with Surf. And once again, we do not one-shot against the first Magnemite. It looks like from full health, we can survive a hit though, so it might be a Stomp into Surf sort of situation where we're hoping for a flinch. So it seems, at least based on a small sample size, that the Surf is in fact generally not 1-hit KOing here. So we're going to need quite a bit of luck to actually get this to go. We're also a range from the Thunderbolt of these Magnemites. We can be one-shot sometimes. Sometimes we survive with just a little HP remaining. Still, we can get this to go eventually. It takes a few attempts, but we finally get our first shot at the Steelix. I just want to see how much damage we do with Surf here. And it does most of the HP, but not enough, so we get knocked out by an Iron Tail. I think there's a solution to this though, so let's go ahead and just deal with that right now by flying back to Cherry Grove City. Here we'll just come talk to this guy. He's going to give us the Mystic Water, and I think that's all that we actually need to be able to get through this one. So now with a little bit of Mystic Water on our Pokemon, let's see what that does to the range with our Surf here. Now when we Surf, we get a 1-hit KO on the first Magnemite. Let's go Surf on the second one. It also gets the 1-hitter. So now we go to the Steelix on full health. We can go Surf. We do, again, most of its HP and damage. It only has 11 HP remaining. She goes Sunny Day, which is perfectly fine. Now she Hyper Potions. It's going to be a 3-hit KO from here with the Harsh Sunlight. But that really doesn't matter because we resist the Iron Tail anyway. We're going to get through just fine on that. So Jasmine turns out to be a little bit random with a Kingler. You're going to have to get that Mystic Water. Remembering this is a max DV's Kingler here. The other thing, of course, is that you could use vitamins in order to get through that. But basically, you're going to have to boost that special attack somehow in order to get this to work. Otherwise, it's actually kind of difficult to get through that fight on minimum battles. I'm sure if we dropped rare candies, we could get through there too, but clearly the Mystic Water is the superior play since it preserves the rare candies and keeps us from having to change our moveset. So definitely something to keep in mind. Of course, people could say Rain Dance was also available. The reason I don't go for Rain Dance, obviously, is because we still have to take a hit from the Magnemites in that case, and we might not survive. I think this is the most consistent way to get through this fight. But now with Kingler done, let's look at our other water type for this episode, which is Azumarill, and then we'll go back and check in on our Tentacruel just to see how all these water types do. So now with Azumarill, we're coming in with Surf, Defense Curl, Rollout, and Ice Punch. And really our best matchup is still Pryce. So I'm going to go to the Rocket Hideout first, and let's just see how that section goes. Otherwise, I think next up is going to be Jasmine here. We're again slightly more defensive than offensive, so I'm not sure how our special stat will actually stack up to those Magnemites on Jasmine's team. But because we are in the fast level up group, I expect that we'll be at a higher level and thus have a better range against Jasmine's Pokemon. So Jasmine's probably not going to be as hard in this one as it was with the Kingler. Still, we'll just have to see how it actually works out. But first, let's just get a bunch bunch of easy levels here in the Rocket Hideout and make our way straight to the final Rocket Executive. Once again, this section goes incredibly easily, even more so than Kingler because we have Ice Punch for Grass-type Pokemon. We're basically guaranteed to one-shot pretty much everything. Here against the Arbok, I will go Surf, and this is probably a two-hitter, sure enough it is. But once that Pokemon goes down, we know that we've got the super effective Ice Punch for the next two Pokemon, so we'll just Ice Punch Gloom. It's not a one-hitter here, it's a two-hitter on this one, funny enough. And we're going to use the Ice Punch on the Murkrow. It does get the one-hit KO, but that's actually kind of surprising. I thought that we would one-shot the Gloom, but we did not. Still, we should be just fine to make our way to Pryce because we can just build up Rollout on the first two Pokemon, and then if Rollout finishes before the Piloswine, we can just switch to Surf. But honestly, Piloswine probably can't one-shot us either way. But let's see how Pryce actually works out with this strategy. So Pryce attempt number one, we're kind of happy that he leads off with the Seal because we can just go Defense Curl here. Sure, he'll go Icy Wind, but it doesn't really do that much. And now we can start into our rollouts, knowing that we'll get a build up a couple on the first Pokemon. Takes 2 hits to knock that one out. Dugong comes out next and gets wrecked. Now we get to level 33 as Piloswine comes out, and we one-shot with a critical hit at least with the rollout. So Pryce goes down nice and easy. But like I said, it's not like we were going to get one shot from that range with Blizzard, so it's just a super easy fight either way. So now let's just make our way to Jasmine and see how she actually goes. Since it seems like we're just dealing with a lot of water types that don't have great special attack here, sometimes the stats just really don't match up with what the Pokemon's supposed to be, but I guess this one's just meant to be more bulky than offensive. I'm just not sure if that's actually, you know, a legit strategy or if it's going to run into a wall at some point because we won't deal enough damage with Azumarill. We'll just have to see. For now, though, we get the Secret Potion. I'm actually just going to run back to Jasmine here and let's just see how she actually goes. Oh, and we see our next Pokemon, Tentacruel. Clearly, this Tentacruel wants to battle us. It's heard the disrespect to the water types. We gotta tell Tentacruel to simmer down. Wait your turn. So here we'll deliver this secret potion. Clearly that's why the Tentacruels were popping up. They wanted to get their hands on the secret potion. But now that Jasmine has it, we're gonna go to her gym and we're gonna show her that no matter what she puts on her Steelix, we're going to win this battle. So Jasmine attempt number one, let's go for Surf here on the first Magnemite, and that gets the one hitter there. Second Magnemite comes out, we go Surf, we get the one hit KO there as well, getting to level 34. And now on the Steelix, we go Surf. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but she goes Sunny Day and then Hyper Potion, so 3 hits from here. Still, we resist the Iron Tail, so I don't think we've got any issues. Sure enough, it just doesn't do enough, and we knock her out on the first attempt. So Jasmine is easier with an Azumarill than with a Kingler, even without fighting anything in Chuck's gym, which I think really just shows how bad the special attack is on Kingler relative to its physical attack. But it also is a testament to the fact that Azumarill is getting more levels coming in here, being a fast level up Pokemon. Those level up rates I think are going to matter more and more the further in the challenge we go. Like I think from here on out, as far as remaining Pokemon, fast level up Pokemon and medium slow level up Pokemon are just going to massively outperform anything in the medium fast level up group, and slow level up Pokemon are going to start dropping off, relatively speaking, because they just aren't going to get enough levels to get through. That's my prediction. We'll see how it goes. For now, let's get into Chuck's gym with Azumarill and just see if we can finish this one out nice and strong. We have no choice but to go Surf here against the Hitmons, which is going to leave us open to a couple hits, but still, we have so much defense that we get through the Hitmonlee with 2 hits and not much damage taken. Now against the Hitmonchan, yes, it's pretty bulky, but it goes Fire Punch against us. Good job, Hitmonchan. That allows us to get through and get to level 35, and now we can get through the rest of these trainers. And I just realized I had been running with my Azumarill named Kingler this entire time. We've gotten it fixed. It's Azumarill now. We're going to put a little respect on its name since it's actually been dealing decent enough damage to these opponents compared to the Kingler before. Now, via level up, we can learn the move Double Edge here. I just don't think that this move is actually going to be that useful, but who knows? I mean, it will deal neutral damage against the Poliwrath, so I guess I'm going to try it. Ice Punch we can always relearn if we need it, so maybe this is the way to go. So I'm going to replace the Ice Punch with Double Edge, just so that we have a strong neutral move against the Poliwrath, and that might be all we actually need to get through here. Otherwise, we can always try a Defense Curl rollout strat, but let's just see. So Chucky Boy attempt number 1. I'm going Surf on the first Primeape. This is going to be a 2-hit KO as it goes Leer, but I think that's just fine. Out next comes the Poliwrath. We go Double Edge, and we did 41 damage there. So this would be a 3-hit KO with this move. I'll just hit a Surf right here to deal a little damage. We get hit by Hypnosis, but we wake up, we Double Edge, and it just barely survives with 1 HP. Are you kidding me? But even with Confusion, we just managed to hit the next turn. We finish with 69 HP. Clearly, Azumarill just way too powerful for Chucky Boy. And that is another water type just through this section of the game. Really not too bad. So we'll just quickly talk to Chuck's wife in order to get Fly, and then we will save the game. And then it's time for our channel member pick that is that Tentacruel. Let's see how it goes. So massive thank you to channel member Rob, who's been supporting for 7 months now, and his Tentacruel Squidward coming in with Surf, Supersonic, Acid, and Ice Beam. Ice Beam was the move that it took to get to this point in the game, and honestly our moveset should be pretty good in this next section. We're about to learn Bubble Beam, but obviously I don't think we need that. Wrap will come in as well, but we're basically not going to go Wrap strats unless that's the only possible avenue towards victory. And outside of that, we don't get a whole lot of new moves that we can learn here. We will get Sludge Bomb as a same type move, so it's going to have kind of limited viability in this section. I don't know. Maybe it will help with Pryce and Chuck, so we'll just have to see there. And we can learn Rain Dance if we just need to power up our Surf, but that's basically it. Let's just see how this goes though. I'm going to go ahead and take on the Rocket Hideout first, so we can at least get access to Sludge Bomb as a strong same type move. Now in terms of stats, the Tentacruel is really strong, so if anything holds us back here, it's going to be our slow level up group causing us not to gain as many levels. That's what I'm most concerned about as we go through this section. Still, stats wise, we seem to be pretty much on par with the other Pokemon we've seen so far, so I don't think this is actually going to end up being that tough, but we'll just have to see how it actually works out. So sure enough, we get through this whole section. I'm not even at full health, but I don't think I need to be for this final fight. Let's just see how it goes. Against the Arbok, we'll go Surf, of course. It's going to be a 2-hitter just like the previous water types, but now Ice Beam is a stronger move than Ice Punch was in the previous one. Maybe we get the 1-hitter on Gloom? No, we do not. It's a 2-hit KO here. We do manage to wake up though and knock out the Gloom on the next turn. That brings us to the Murkrow, where we do get the 1-hit KO with Ice Beam. So we're not 1-hitting against Gloom with ice type moves here with non-ice Pokemon. That's kind of sus, but hey, we'll take it. Let's move on now to Pryce. But just before that, we will come back up here towards the Lake of Rage, and let's talk to this guy to get access to TM36. I think I'm going to learn this move right away. I think it's just one of our best possible moves that we could have on a Tentacruel. And while yes, Acid can drop defense, Sludge Bomb is just so much stronger that I think it's the best play. And with Sludge Bomb on the moveset, let's make our way down to Pryce and just see if we can manage to use it to knock out the first 2 Pokemon, and then Surf on the Piloswine is going to be the play. Let's see if it works out. So Pryce attempt number 1, we go for Sludge Bomb on the Seal. It does over half, so we're going to get a nice 2-hit KO there. Out comes the Dugong. We go for Sludge Bomb. It's looking like a 3-hit KO here. Sure enough, we're going to get it nice and easy. That will bring out the final Piloswine, where we will switch to Surf, a strong same type move. It's going to be a 2-hitter. He goes for Mist and then goes for the Hyper Potion, but clearly he just never stood a chance in this battle. We completely stunt on Pryce. And with the Glacier Badge in tow, let's make our way down to Jasmine. Let's see if Rob just continues his domination here for a minute. And it appears that we did not do the Lighthouse yet, so I'll just go ahead and take on that as well so that we have a more efficient routing as we go down to Cyanwood after that. So Jasmine attempt number 1. Let's see if Squidward can just completely destroy her Steel Snake. Starting off with the Magnemite, of course, we just go Surf and destroy it. We'll do Surf on the second Magnemite as well, getting a 1-hit KO. That brings out the Steelix. We go Surf, and this one is going to be a 2-hit KO yet again. She goes Sunny Day. Not really a problem. We get a critical hit the next turn, and we're just going to knock her out right from there. Not like she was going to do that much the next turn anyway. anyway, so it's a pretty easy victory to get through Jasmine. We get that mineral badge, and now we can head right back down to Chucky Boy. So here, what I'm really interested to see is how Rob's Squidward does here with the Sludge Bomb against these fighting types. Since it is a physical and neutral move, a critical hit just one-shots the Hitmonlee. We will not learn Wrap at level 30, but we will just keep using the Sludge Bomb on this Hitmonchan. And with that, I think we've got enough moves to actually get through Chucky Boy. So let's just make our way through the rest of the randos and straight to the gym leader. So sure enough, we get to Chuck with no issues, so let's just see how it goes. He's going to lead off, of course, with his Primeape that we're just going to go Surf a couple times on. He goes Fury Swipes, which really didn't do that much, and we get a nice easy victory there. Poliwrath comes out next. We'll go Sludge Bomb, and a critical hit took it all the way down to 28 HP, and it gets poisoned. It just goes Mind Reader, and we destroy it the next turn. So Chuck goes down super easy, and even if he wanted to go for the Hypnosis the next turn, we were just going to recover with the Mint Berry anyway. So Rob just completely stunts on this entire section, in spite of the fact that he's in the slow level up group. Doesn't even matter. Clearly just OP. So just a massive thank you to you, Rob, for your continued support for 7 months. Let's keep running it up with this Tentacruel going now into the Claire section where, I mean, what? We've got Ice Beam. It's probably going to be perfectly fine. It will only be neutrally effective on Kingler, though. We might have to instead go for some Sludge Bomb strats there, but I think we're going to have enough to get that one to go. So this Pokemon is probably going to the league where we're going to have to worry about Willy Boy. That's my actual concern going forward with this one, is just if Will turns out to be a complete wall, but we won't know until we get there. So for now, Squidward moves on. Let's check in on our progress so far. So here we can see that Kingdra and Azumarill have joined the pass column. We're up to 58 Pokemon up there, and we can just verify very quickly that my code actually worked and the Tentacruel has properly moved down into the completed member picks. So perfect. We're ready to continue on in this challenge. Let's get our Exeggutor out of the way since it's just kind of the lone grass type. And then we'll look at the Marowak and that member pick Diglett just to get our ground types rounded out before we get into the rest of our challengers here. So next up, we have Exeggutor, and we're coming in with Confusion, Hypnosis, Barrage, and Stomp. We can also learn things like Rollout, Headbutt, Strength, Sludge Bomb if we really want it for some reason, and Nightmare strats are going to be available. So there are plenty of moves that we can use in this section. We might get rid of Barrage for one of them, but for now, I'm going to try with my moveset as it is. The real issue that we have is that everything except for Chuck's Gym resists our stab typing. So I think we have to go to Chucky Boy first in this one. And if he's not working, then we will go to the Rocket Hideout to try to gain some extra levels since we are in that slow level up group. Still, I'm pretty sure that between Stomp and Confusion, we can get through Chuck's Gym. So that's what I'm going to try first. Still, we'll take on the Lighthouse on our way down there just for some more efficient routing through this next section. And hopefully we'll be able to then just come back and fight Jasmine when we can, though I think Jasmine's going to be pretty tough unless we go for the Nightmare strat here. We just don't have a whole lot of moves that are actually good against her. And as a Stone Evolution, we don't really learn that many new moves. We're only going to get Egg Bomb at level 31, which I'm not sure if that move's actually going to be good or if we can just avoid that move altogether in this. Still, Sleep will always give us a chance even in the toughest fights, so I think that's going to be the strategy if we have to YOLO it at any point. So let's just see if that's the case or not. So first things first, let's come into Chucky Boy's gym and just see how this actually goes. Against the first Black Belt bros, we might be better off going for Stomp here, just given the fact that it's a physical move. I'm honestly not sure what the best play is. It turns out to be a two-hitter with one Stomp and one Confusion. We can probably just go Confusion in that case and get the pretty easy victory. The good point is that they can't really do all that much to us. Like even Fire Punch won't really hurt us that bad because we have pretty decent special defense. So we can just heal up after getting through the first two trainers, and I think we are going to crush the rest of the gym. So let's just see if we can get to Chucky Boy himself. So we're going to hold a Mint Berry as we come into this fight, and let's just see how Chuck actually works out. So he leads off with the Primeape, of course. I'm going to go for Confusion here. We are slower than Primeape, and this is going to be a 2-hitter. We do confuse it, and Karate Chop didn't do that much anyway, so we take it down nice and easy. Now against the Poliwrath, we actually are faster here, so we can put this Pokemon to sleep and then go for the Confusion. We did slightly less than half, so I'm going to go for the sleep again here. We had to use the Mint Berry when he landed Hypnosis on us, but then we put him back to sleep and then just knock him out in one more turn. So clearly it's just arranged to be a 2-hitter there. It just didn't look like I was going to get the 2-hitter initially, which is why I gave the sleep again. But yeah, really not a tough fight at all. Now, however, we've got to deal with the fact that the next 2 gyms do have super effective typings against us. So it's not like they're necessarily going to be easy. I'm going to make my way to the Rocket Hideout first in order to gain as many levels as possible. Now, coming to the Rocket Hideout, we do have to take on Jed and his 3 Magnemites. So this is going to be a chance to see what a move like Confusion actually does here, and it does about half. So we're going to be in kind of tough shape. Still, given that it is a same type move, it's probably the best that we've got at this point. And once we get through this trainer, we'll get a free heal from Lance. So I think this is perfectly fine as we just get through those 3 Pokemon. But it does make me a little bit nervous about Jasmine. We will be faster than our Pokemon, so we can put them to sleep. But from there, we're going to have to really hope that we get a pretty good number of turns each time we use sleep so that we can actually knock out the Pokemon. Here for now though, all the other trainers in this section are basically susceptible to Confusion, and if not, we can just stomp them down, so we should have a pretty easy time getting through the rest of the rockets. So here against the final rocket in this section, let's just see how she actually goes. Against the Arbok, we'll lead off with Stab Confusion, which gets a 1-hit KO. Murkrow comes out next, we'll stomp on it, and that's going to be a 2-hitter. Doesn't deal nearly enough damage, so nothing to worry about there. And Confusion on the final Gloom gets the job done as we get to level 30 right here. And now we have to either take on either Pryce or Jasmine. There are no other trainers available, so we're going to have to see if we can make this work or not. So I'm actually going to take on Jasmine first, since she at least doesn't have any super effective moves against us and we're faster than everything on her team. So let's see how this goes. We might have to learn a new move here, but for now I'm just going to try with the moveset that I currently have. So up against Jasmine, she leads off with the first Magnemite. We put it to sleep. Now I'm going to go Confusion on this Pokemon. It looks like a 3-hit KO. Fortunately, this one stays asleep, so we can knock it out nice and easy. Steelix comes out second. We miss the Hypnosis and it goes Iron Tail, and Iron Tail has us in a 3-hit KO range. When we miss all the Hypnosis, we simply go down. Now I'm going to make sure to give the Paralyzed Cure Berry here, just in case we miss on one of the Magnemites and we need to recover paralysis. But otherwise, I think this really just comes down to the luck that we get with sleep and Confusion. So this time we managed to get the first Magnemite to sleep again. Just wanting to look at what the range is with Stomp here. It looks pretty similar. Even with Stomp, we'll be able to get it down in 3 hits. This time we actually managed to put the Steelix to sleep. We get a critical hit Confusion that did 33 damage, so we're probably doing 16 or 17 damage normally, which means that this is gonna be a pretty tough range to knock this Pokemon out. It is confused right now though, so if it does wake up, it will have a chance to hit itself in Confusion. Instead, it misses an Iron Tail when it wakes up, but then it gets Screech on us. Still, I managed to get it to sleep after that, and if it just stays asleep enough turns, she's already used the Hyper Potion, so we will be able to knock out the Steelix as it once again gets confused. So we do take it down. That brings out the final Magnemite. We put it to sleep, and if it just stays asleep for 3 turns, we will win here. And sure enough, it stays asleep, so we get the victory here against Jasmine. Just a couple attempts there to get through. Really not too bad. Now the question is, do we outspeed the Pokemon on Pryce's team? If we do, then this next fight's probably not that bad. It's just about sleep luck. If we don't, then we might get completely wrecked by the ice type moves. So let's get into the Pryce fight and find out. Pryce attempt number 1, he leads off with the Seal. I'm going Hypnosis on it. We miss. We get hit by Icy Wind and our speed gets dropped. And then we miss another Hypnosis. And at this point, I'm thinking that we're probably getting wrecked. Because if we can't keep even the Seal asleep, and if we can't outspeed the Dugong that comes out next, it might just be game over for us. We get to level 31 here and learn Egg Bomb. I'll learn it over Barrage just to have a stronger move. But when we're slower, we're all the way down to 2 HP remaining from the Dugong. I'll try Egg Bomb just to see what it does. It did about a quarter there. It's probably pretty similar to what Confusion's doing here. We are going to get through the Dugong though. Are we faster than Piloswine? And the answer is no, we are not. Our speed drop has us 1 point in speed slower than that Pokemon. So we cannot take a speed drop here if we're going to get through. Let's try this one again. It takes a couple attempts, but I finally managed to get the Seal to go to sleep turn 1. And as long as it stays asleep, it's just a 2-hit KO. We'll once again learn Egg Bomb here over Barrage. So we're just using level up moves here. But now we managed to get Dugong to sleep and we are faster than this Pokemon. So it looks like it's going to be a 4-hitter no matter what we do. But this time we don't have any attack drops. So Egg Bomb is actually doing a lot more. We can stomp it down. That brings out the Piloswine. We miss the first Hypnosis. It hits Blizzard. And when we miss 2 Hypnosises and get hit by Blizzard twice, we simply go down. So we definitely need better luck with sleep than that if we're going to get through this fight. It's definitely a little bit random because of the huge reliance that we have on the Hypnosis. Still, we get back to Piloswine the next attempt, but once again, Blizzard just ends me there. So we're going to have to once again land the Hypnosis 3 times in a row. That's a 60% chance, assuming that we get 1 sleep on each Pokemon, 60 to the 3rd power. So really not great. Still, attempt number 6. So we get back to the Piloswine on full health. We actually get it to sleep this time. We'll use Egg Bomb since it's technically our strongest move. It wakes up and misses a Blizzard, and then it goes for Fury Attack. We managed to get it back to sleep. I'm just using Egg Bomb since it's effectively the strongest. Blizzard hits, but we survive, only for him to Hyper Potion. Still, we put him back to sleep, and if we can land 1 more hit, I think we win. Sure enough, we do after a Blizzard miss. So that was ridiculous. Exeggutor does get through, but Pryce is a major wall there. Jasmine was also pretty tough, and now we're going to have to see how we do when we get to Claire, given that yet again we don't get that many great moves. Still, in the next section, we may be able to go for some sort of rollout strat. We may be able to go for nightmare strats. We'll just kind of have to see what we want to do there. For now, Exeggutor is moving on in this challenge. So that now brings us to Marowak, who's coming in with Bone Meringue, Focus Energy, Headbutt, and Mud Slap. This one could be really interesting, but I think we want to take on Jasmine first, given that we have a type advantage there. Bone Meringue, I'm pretty sure will just destroy the 2 Magnemites and do really good damage against the Steelix, though the high defense on Steelix could be a problem. Then we'll just have to see how we do against Chuck. We're going to save Pryce for last since he's technically the hardest of the gym leaders for us. Now, we did not clear the lighthouse last time, so we'll clear that really quick before we go to Cyanwood so that we can come back with that secret potion. Clearly, the secret potion is what turns Marowak into a ghost in Gen 1. And Jasmine wants to research it just a little bit because if she could have a steel ghost type as her ace, she might just be even stronger than she already is. And after completing a little fetch quest, we're ready to take on Jasmine herself, so let's just see how she goes with technically Ghosty Papa because we've got a male Marowak here. I think this one's gonna be pretty easy though. So up first, we've got the Magnemite. We're gonna go for Bone Meringue and miss. Still, we can knock it out the next turn. Steelix comes out after that. We'll just Bone Meringue here, and it did about a third, but Iron Tail missed, which is perfectly fine by me. We take a lot of damage here as she goes for her Hyper Potion, and given that we're on fairly low health, I think we have to use Mud Slap. We simply lost that first attempt. Let's try this one again, where we can just one-shot the Magnemite this time. When the Steelix comes out, I will go for Mud Slap first instead to try to lower the accuracy of its moves. Still, it looks like it's just 2-hit KOing us here with the Iron Tail. Now, giving a berry might allow us to survive 2 Iron Tails there, and that might be all that we actually need at this point. This time she sends her second Magnemite out before the Steelix. I'm going to focus energy here once, just because maybe then we can get a critical hit or something. And unfortunately, she didn't get us below half health, so we never healed, so 2 Iron Tails did still knock us out there. Still, let's try this again with our Mud Slaps, because I think we just need a little bit better luck with the accuracy here. After getting her accuracy down all the way, we get hit again and knocked out by the Iron Tail. I'm not sure if she got a crazy range or a crit there. The game itself kind of glitched out there for a second. Still, this time we managed to heal. She goes for the Hyper Potion after missing a Screech. and then we survive the Iron Tail here. We get the defense drop, but it came in too late, and that brings us to the final Magnemite where we hit Bonemerang and we do win. So it took a few attempts there on Jasmine. It's obviously going to be more consistent if we go to the Rocket Hideout first, but she's definitely a winnable fight, especially if you can find a spot to set up the focus energy and get more critical hits there. You're basically going to be good to go. So now I'm going to go down to Chucky Boy's gym because, well, yes, he has Surf on the Poliwrath. I think that we can get through at least the randos here, and I want to get that extra XP before either of these next gym leaders. I think the Rocket Hideout will be pretty easy too, but we're already down here, so we may as well try it. So first up, we've got the Black Belt Bros who are weaker against physical attacks than special attacks. So one Bonemerang destroys the Hitmonlee. That will bring out the Hitmonchan where we can go for the same strategy here. Fire Punch will not do enough damage, and it's just going to take 2 Bonemerangs to take that one down. So very good. We managed to win nice and easy. Now Marowak is quite slow, which is one of the issues that we have here, and we are not holding the Thick Club. That would obviously make our Pokemon way better. So we're just going to kind of have to run with what we've got right now. Now we can learn Thunder Punch if we want to here as a strategy for the Poliwrath. So I'll keep that in mind. I'm going to try going without it first because it's not like our special attack is amazing. We might just be doing better damage with Bonemerang anyway, but it is a strat if we get really desperate. So Chucky Boy, attempt number 1. Let's just see how he actually goes here. He leads off with the Primeape, which is faster than us. And Bonemerang is not a one-hit KO. He's going to go Fury Swipes after he goes for a Leer on us. I decided to go for Focus Energy, and then we missed a Bonemerang. Still, we managed to get to the Poliwrath, and we are in a speed tie with this Pokemon. So unfortunately here, it wins the flip and goes first, allowing it to knock us out. And the fact that we're in a speed tie, I think makes pretty clear we do have to go to the Rocket Hideout first, because once we level up even once, we will be faster than that Poliwrath. That will be the key to getting through that fight, I think. Now here at level 32, Marowak could learn Rage, but at this point, I don't think it's a useful enough move. We have much stronger physical attacking moves available to us. So I'm going to skip that for now. Tell me if you think that's a mistake in the comment section down below. But with that, we have made it through the entire Rocket Hideout. We should have a pretty easy time against the final Executive, but let's just confirm that that is in fact the case. So here against the final Rocket Executive, I'm going to go Bonemerang on the Arbok. That gets an easy KO. We'll go for the same on the Gloom, and we actually miss, but that's fine. We'll just go for Headbutt after that. It will be a 2-hit KO with that move. And against the Murkrow, we have to go Headbutt since it's the only effective move there. Still, we get through nice and fine, no problems. And now we can go ahead and just get through these electrodes, but then it's time for either Chuck or Pryce. Since he doesn't have the best AI, so maybe he'll give us a free win somewhere, but let's just see if that's actually the case. We can also think about Thunder Punch and or Fire Punch as strategies to try to get through here, so let's just see if any of those actually work. First up against the Seal, I'm just going to go for Bonemerang. It does get the 2-hit KO there. That brings out the Dugong, which we do outspeed. We can Headbutt. It looks like a 4-hitter with this move. Aurora Beam did a lot with a crit, but we also crit, so we managed to knock that Pokemon out. That brings out Piloswine, where we can go Headbutt. It misses a Blizzard. Let's see what the Bonemerang does. Unfortunately, we missed, so we didn't get to see the range. Let's just try this again. Bonemerang did quite a bit of damage to that Dugong, so we got it down on low health. Now on the Piloswine, yet again, we miss, but we didn't get knocked out by the Blizzard. And it looks like 2 Bonemerangs will be enough to knock that Pokemon out. So I think we just mostly stick with Bonemerang here as long as we don't get any attack drops. That's probably our best strategy. Keeping in mind, Piloswine can miss 30% of the time like it does here. So on the 3rd attempt, we just managed to win against Pryce because he just missed his strongest move. It's not really that his strategy was bad by any means. He just has inaccuracy. He'd be better off with Ice Beam there, in which case he'd actually be a really top tier gym leader, I think. Still, with Pryce done, now we can go back to fight against Chucky Boy, and let's just see how he goes now that we've gotten to a slightly higher level. Coming back here at level 33, the Primeape still outspeeds us, but Bonemerang does two-shot there. Let's just see what the range is here with Bonemerang against the Poliwrath. It's going to take 2 of these to knock it out, but it goes Mind Reader, and that allows me to get the free win, getting to level 34. So Chuck once again just punts on what might have been a reasonable win for him. You know, maybe he could have critical hit us with Surf and one-shot or something, I don't know, but he doesn't even try. He just tries to read our mind, only to find out that what our mind is saying is that we're going to beat him on the next turn. So we'll come talk to his wife, get access to Fly, and we can say Marowak does manage to get through this section. It did not need any moveset changes. In spite of the fact that it does learn some of those elemental punches, they're just not really the best moves, I don't think, on this Pokemon, so I'll keep them in the back pocket in case we actually need them. But Bonemerang is a pretty good move overall for this point in the game for a ground type, and it does the job there. But now we have a real challenge on our hands because we have to run this Diglett whose name is Nub. It was picked up by channel member Donch, and he basically said to me, try to give it a moveset that will actually get it through to where we are on minimum battles. And this is going to be a massive challenge. I'm going to pick up this Diglett in the Totodile Ball, and let's check what moveset I decided to go with, but give me a comment if you think I made a mistake. I have given our Diglett a moveset that consists of Rock Slide, Body Slam, Earthquake, and Fissure. Here's my logic. Rock Slide will be good for the first 2 gyms. Body Slam gives us the chance to paralyze opponents. Earthquake is our strongest same type move, and as long as we're at a higher level than the opponent in front of us, we can try to use Fissure to go for a one-hit KO if everything else is not working. We've seen a lot of cases where, by the point we're at currently in the game, medium-fast level-up Pokemon can be at higher levels than some of their opponents, allowing for that YOLO strat, and honestly, I think that might be the only way Diglett can get through some fights. Still, tell me if you think that there's a different moveset I should have tried, but I'm going to try this one and just see how it actually goes as we make our way out into the world. If you'll recall, the reason we failed last time was because of Honest Abe. He was simply doing way too much damage against us, and that was causing us to have a major problem where we simply couldn't survive against the Pex. Diglett is just kind of this ultimate fast but otherwise incredibly frail Pokemon, which puts it in that situation where if it's outsped by something, it can get completely wrecked. Paralysis could help us there if we can manage to even land a single hit. We'll just have to see if it actually works out or not. So let's fast forward to the gym fight and just see how this actually goes. So here we are in the gym, it's Honest Abe time, and the problem is I think we're still slower than the Spearow. So we might need to add on like a Quick Claw or something to this Pokemon. I'm going to give a berry for now, but Quick Claw as a traded in item might be the only way to actually get this to go. Let's find out. So Honest Abe attempt number 1. I'm actually going to go Body Slam here, hoping for paralysis. With the berry, we can heal up once. Unfortunately, we got no paralysis there, but because we're going to get 2 hits, I'm going to test out the Rock Slide just to see what kind of damage it does. And that did over half, so Rock Slide will allow us to get through this fight. But you can see why with Growl and Scratch, we simply weren't getting through there. We're basically getting 2-hit KO'd. We can manage that 3rd turn just because of the berry. Still, we managed to get through thanks to Rock Slide, which was a legit TM for this Pokemon in Gen 1. In fact, all of these moves were Gen 1 TM moves. So let's see if we can keep going through the rest of the gym. Fortunately, we do manage to make it to Falkner on minimum battles here. So it's time for our first attempt. I think Rock Slide will be enough for the Pidgey. The question is, how much damage do we take from that Pidgeotto? Now, because we're faster than everything here, we can really go for anything, but I'll go for the Rock Slide here. We get the flinch from the Pidgey, allowing us to knock it out the next turn. On the Pidgeotto, we're also faster. I'm going to try Body Slam to get paralysis. We got it that time. We get a critical hit gust that took us down to 4 HP, but now we can go for the Rock Slide. It's fully paralyzed, and we knock it out the next turn. So we beat Falkner on the first attempt. We get a level up and learn Magnitude, but I'm going to skip that move just because it's kind of random. I think think Earthquake's going to be the better play here. So just like that, we did manage to get through the first gym. Now the question is, how do we do as we make our way down to Rival 2 and Bugsy? The fact that we have Rock Slide should make Bugsy possible, especially because it's 4 times super effective against his ace. But I'm really nervous how we're going to do against the rival down there when he has his Bayleaf, because that Pokemon's going to do some serious damage to us with its strongest move, Razor Leaf. We might be in a one-hit KO range there. And I'm not sure, like I knew before, but I don't remember exactly what level we're going to be on minimum battles there. So I don't think Fissure is going to be on the table though. I think at the best, we might be about the same level, but we might be 1 or 2 levels lower with the medium fast level up group. So this is going to be tough, but let's see how it actually works out. Still, before all of that, we have to get through the Slowpoke well, which should be super easy. We're going to come talk to Kurt, and he's going to show us how to take our Diglett underground, because that's where it belongs. And these traders should be really pretty simple with our current moveset. And sure enough, we get to Jamesy Proton just fine down here. So let's go ahead and give him an Earthquake, and it's going to be a 2-hit KO, but Tackle didn't do that much, allowing us to get the easy victory as we get to level 12. And now we'll just head straight into Bugsy's gym to get the levels against these randos and then take on the gym leader himself. So it's time for Bugsy attempt number 1. Let's see how he goes. Leading off with the Metapod, we will simply go for Rock Slide right here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. We get String Shot a couple times. That's perfectly fine. We were going to be faster than that Pokemon anyway. Out comes the Kakuna. It also goes for String Shot. We can really go for Earthquake here because it's neutrally effective. And that brings out the Scyther, who's 4 times weak to Rock Slide. So this is going to be an easy 2-hit KO. Yes, Fury Cutter took us down to low health, but it didn't matter. We get the very easy victory there. So now it's on to the rival. And the question is, what do we want to use here? I thought about giving Sludge Bomb to this Pokemon so that it would have a solution for the Bayleaf, but I decided against it just because I thought that these other moves would be more useful. So we might need to go for some paralysis, maybe some flinches with Rock Slide, and who knows, depending on the exact level, we might be able to go for the Fissure, but I don't think so. I think we're going to be under leveled relative to the Bayleaf. So let's try this. First up, against the Ghastly, Earthquake is the play. It's a simple 1-hit KO. Bayleaf comes out, and yeah, it's 1 level higher than us here, but we are faster. We Body Slam and paralyze it. A Razor Leaf takes us to 1 HP remaining. I'm going to go Rock Slide here. We get a flinch, which is nice. We're basically going for the either paralysis or flinch each turn here, and we just needed 1 more turn to knock that Pokemon out. A non-crit also might have allowed us to survive another turn. So let's just try this one again as we get to the Bayleaf. I think if we don't get paralysis, it's basically game over right there. And of course, if we're just getting hit over and over again, we're probably going to lose. And it's a range to one-shot us with the Razor Leaf, so this isn't going to be pretty no matter how we do it. It looks like this is going to be a 5-hit KO with our damage-dealing moves, but we get a critical hit there, allowing us to get to level 16 as Zubat comes out. We go for Rock Slide, and that allows us to finally get the victory against the rival. It took a few attempts there, but we did manage to get it to go within a reasonable number of attempts. Like, I think it was 4 attempts there to actually win, which is really not that bad. Still very luck-based. It's all reliant on the paralysis, and then you're kind of hoping to do a Paraflinch strategy there. But once you get it, you can move on in the game. So now as we make our way up to Goldenrod, this is going to be incredibly interesting because we have basically no defense, but we are very fast. I expect that Whitney, if she just uses like Stomp on us, will probably win, at least within like 2 hits. At most. So we're going to need to make sure that we actually get as many levels as we possibly can through minimum battles before we go take her on. And then we might need a lot of luck to actually get the victory. So I'm just going to take on everything in the underground. Fortunately, our moves are pretty good down here, so we should be able to knock these all out pretty easily and then just make our way to the gym. And after fighting every fight that is available at this point in the game, we're at level 17. And I'm honestly not sure if we're going to be able to survive. We only have 37 HP and only 20 defense. We have the advantage of having 44 speed, but even that, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. And we might need to add on the move Mud Slap to even have a shot here. But let's test this and find out. So Whitney, attempt number 1. I'm going to Body Slam here first. I just wanted to see if we actually cannot paralyze normal types. In fact, we can. So as long as we can paralyze, we have a little bit more of a chance here. And it looks like Earthquake would probably just 2-shot here against the Clefairy either way. Still, we managed to get through that Pokemon. That brings out the Miltank, and Miltank is faster than our little Diglett is. I'm pretty sure that we just get wrecked here by Stomp. Sure enough, we get 1 shot from at least that much HP. Maybe on full HP we can find a way through, but I'm not too confident. So this time we managed to get through Clefairy on full health. So now we can see what the Miltank looks like when we're here on full health. And from full health, we survive with 1 HP from the Stomp, only to get flinched this time, so we couldn't use any of our moves. And that, I think, is basically the point of all of this. Here we get frozen this time, so we're going to lose there. I think we have to go Quick Claw if we're going to have any chance of actually winning this fight. We get another attempt where we survive and we get to the Miltank just so that we could see what kind of damage we're doing here. I used Body Slam and it did 12 damage. So Earthquake will be a little bit stronger than that, but it's not like this is going to be a 2-hit KO or something where we could just rely on a crit. We're going to have to paralyze the Miltank to have any real shot here. When we don't get the paralysis, it's just yet again going to be a reset. And if we take really any damage from the Clefairy, that's also going to be a reset. So it's definitely not a very good looking range here to get through this. It might be possible eventually with like infinite resets, but it's definitely not pretty. Here we finally managed to paralyze the Miltank so we can see what Earthquake would do, but yet again, it's still going to take 4 more hits from there in order to actually knock this Pokemon out. So here, I think we need to add on the move Mud Slap to have any shot whatsoever. So I'm going to forget Fissure to learn Mud Slap here. We've also thrown on the Quick Claw, so we'll have a better chance of outspeeding the Miltank, and we're hoping to get a couple of accuracy drops on it as our way to get through. Now with the Quick Claw, we can keep going even if we take a hit from that Clefairy, because there's at least a chance that we'll outspeed against the Miltank and be able to use our Mud Slap there. So that's basically the strategy. We go 2 Earthquakes on the Clefairy to knock it out, and then we try to go for the Mud Slap on the Miltank. And after tons of resets here, it's pretty clear that the Whitney fight isn't working, at least with our current moveset. So we need to think if there's anything else that we could throw on that might make this possible in this situation. So instead of Mud Slap, I'm going to try the move Curse just to see what it would do for us. Since after all, if we were able to use Curse a bunch of times, we could increase our defense and our attack stat, and with the Quick Claw, we might still be able to outspeed and then one-shot our opponent. The question is, can we actually get it set up? So let's test this and see. So here we would be using Curse to increase our defense and attack, basically as many times as we possibly can. Clefairy seems to be following suit, and of course we're going to need it to not metronome any good moves for the entire time that we're trying to set up. So this time we get everything set up and we get to the Miltank. We need the Quick Claw to activate, and then we might one-shot. Instead, it goes for Rollout though, and that allows me to get the win. So the strategy turns out to be Curse, which, I mean, it's one of the most OP strategies available in Gen 2, but even with this incredibly frail little Pokemon, as long as you don't get like a bunch of bad metronome moves from that first Clefairy, and if you use the Quick Claw, you can actually use Curse in order to beat Whitney when she would normally be sometimes one-shotting you, mostly two-shotting you from at least my limited testing here, but that seems to be the only way to progress in this challenge, short of going for like double team or attract strats, which honestly I don't really want to go for. So yeah, that's basically what we're stuck with here in this one. So I feel like this is legit because we never really used Fissure for one, and for two, I mean, you could always just trade this to another cartridge and take the Curse TM from that other game to teach it to this Pokemon. So on that basis, I'm going to allow this to continue, but yeah, it's definitely not pretty. I do not recommend running this Diglett. But with that, let's just make our way up to Exeggutor and see how we do against rival number 3 and Morty. This could be a brutal section of the game. Now, of course, Magnemite and Haunter won't necessarily be too bad because we have Earthquake. It's really the Bayleaf that we're worried about that might just be a wall. And here, I think we should go down to the Lighthouse just to get as many levels as we can before we even try the rival, just because I expect this fight to be completely brutal. So now that we've fought basically everything, I'm going to go back to Exeggutor and I'm going to take on the last Kimono girl that has the Vaporeon. I skipped it for now just because of the fact that I was so scared of getting knocked out by a water type move, because we basically have no special defense or defense with this Pokemon. We're really just attack and speed. That's all we have going for us. So this might be tough even against this one Kimono girl, but let's find out. So here the Vaporeon comes out. I'm going to go Earthquake here. It does about half. Water Gun does over half, but fortunately we're faster, so we do get the win and get to level 23. But that makes me nervous about the Razor Leaf that's incoming. We might just get one shot for all I know, and that might be the end of this. So it might be a situation where once again we have to set up Curse a bunch of times in order to have any shot against that Bayleaf, hoping that the Quick Claw activates when we absolutely need it to. Still, we won't know till we try. Let's fight the rival and see if he's beatable at this point with our little Diglett. So first attempt, I'm just going to go in on attack just normally here. We can Earthquake on the Haunter. That will be a one-hit KO. Bayleaf comes out next. We will Body Slam it, hoping for paralysis. It goes for Poison Powder, which is kind of good, but then it takes us to incredibly low health with the next hit. So it's pretty clear that's a 4-hit KO currently with the Body Slam. That suggests that the best strategy is probably to set up a couple of curses on the Haunter, hoping to increase our attack stat. We get paralyzed here and then Spite before it finally uses Curse against us. And now we're just hoping that we can use Earthquake to knock that Pokemon out. We're hoping the Quick Claw activates, and it does here on Bayleaf, but we're on such low health that it just Razor Leafs us down. We definitely don't want to be paralyzed by this Pokemon, so we're going to need better luck than that. Here we managed to knock the Haunter out without getting cursed after we set up a couple of our own curses. We get Reflect from the Bayleaf, which is kind of bad, but we do survive against its Razor Leaf. We just couldn't paralyze it. Otherwise, we might have had a chance there. Once again, we get Reflect from the Bayleaf though, and that seems to be its strategy against our curse, is that if we have really high attack, it's just going to go for increasing its own defense through Reflect. Now, with only one curse set up, we will still outspeed against the Bayleaf and we can paralyze it. And it looks like it's going to be a 3-hit KO at this point. So maybe if we just get really good paralysis luck there, we can find a way through this. This time it's fully paralyzed. We get another hit on it. And unfortunately, it just moved after that to use Razor Leaf. But that's about as close as I've gotten so far. So I think this is the strategy to go with. It's also worth noting that if on the second turn we get a critical hit, we might just be able to get a one-shot there against that Bayleaf. So that could be our other strategy for getting through this. This time we get a critical hit that takes the Bayleaf all the way down to 2 HP remaining. It sets up Reflect, and that allows us to knock it out. Zubat comes out next. We go Rock Slide. It's going to be a 2-hitter on this one, and it confuses us, which is terrible, but we do manage to take it down from there. That brings out the Magnemite. If we hit the Earthquake, we win. We get it. So we finally managed to get through the rival after 21 attempts, but it's probably 11 or 12 of those since I changed up my strategy to do the one curse. The crit definitely helped us there, as well as the fact that Bayleaf, when it doesn't have a guaranteed one-hit KO, will sometimes use other moves. In that case, Reflect, which didn't really matter, though that Reflect is probably the only reason that the Zubat survived against our Rock Slide. Still, we managed to get the victory, and now we can move on to Morty's gym, but that was insanely lucky. Like, this Pokemon does not feel good to run. Even with all these OP moves on its moveset, it just feels terrible. Still, we're progressing, so let's just beat up on all these ghosts, which should be easy with Earthquake, and then see if we can beat Morty himself. So with that, we have made it to Morty, so it's time to see how he actually works out. We should be faster than the entire team, so the question is mostly whether or not we one-hit KO and whether or not we can survive any hits here. So I'm going to go in with the Mint Berry. We're already faster than everything, so I think if we one-shot everything except Gengar, then we might just need to dodge the single sleep from Gengar and we can win. Let's see if that's actually the case. So Morty attempt number 1, we one-shot the Ghastly with an Earthquake. That's perfectly fine. Haunter comes out. It also gets wrecked, so that's also perfectly fine. Now we've got the Gengar in front of us. We outspeed, we hit Earthquake, and it is a one-hit KO. So that works. And we get the final Haunter out, destroying it in a single hit as we get to level 27. Just like that, Diglett has managed to get through at least to where we currently are in the challenge. If this were not a member pick, it would definitely be out though. It would not have even survived this long, even with the OP moveset. We had to go curse strats in order to make this even look somewhat legitimate. So I'm definitely not feeling super confident as we continue on. I think we need to get all the easy levels that we can. So we're going to go and take on the Rocket Hideout first, and then we're going to have to go take on Jasmine before we try any of the other gym leaders, because Jasmine's the only one against whom our same type moves are actually any good. Chuck is probably next because we can at least try to set up on the Primeape and then go all in on that Poliwrath. Pryce might actually be really hard in this one because we're weak against ice. So I'm honestly just not sure how this is going to go. We're going to give it our best shot for a channel member here. If I ever hit a point where I can't find a strategy that actually progresses in the game, that is game over. GG. Sorry, nice try. You played, but you know, you might be eliminated. But we should have enough attacks here in the Rocket Hideout to destroy everything. So I feel pretty confident here, but we'll see if that confidence is misplaced or not. So we did manage to get through this section, though we had one reset to the executive in the basement with his Raticate. Quick attack ended me because it just had me in the right range. We're going to have to see how this final executive goes here, because this is not necessarily a free win. She, of course, leads off with the Arbok. We're going to go Earthquake on this Pokemon, getting a one-hit KO. Out comes the Gloom. Earthquake is technically our strongest move here. It's neutrally effective and same type, but it's not a one-hitter. It is going to be a two-hit KO. Body Slam should finish that one, though. As we get to level 30 and the Murkrow comes out, we'll go Rock Slide, and that does get the victory. So we managed to get through the Rocket Hideout. Now we have to see if we can get through everything else in this next section. So I think the next mission is to go take on all the randos inside of Chuck's gym, and then we will try to actually go take on Jasmine and see if we can get the victory there. So let's just get into the gym and take on the Black Belt Bros to see how they go. Of course, we've got the Hitmonlee out first. I'm going to go Earthquake since it's our strongest move. It does not quite get the one shot. It's a two-hit KO. We might have to fish for paralysis there in order to actually get this one to be a victory or a critical hit like we get right there. So we actually get through the Hitmonchan in one hit, but that was lucky. That was only because of the crit that we got that one to go. You cannot bank on that. Mostly you're going to lose to the Black Belt Bros here with this Diglett. And then you're not even like one-shotting a Machop here without a crit. So you're pretty much fishing for paralysis if you're going to get through this, or you're fishing for crits. Still, we got through all those randos at least, so we're ready to go back to Jasmine now. And let's just see if we can actually beat one of these gym leaders in this section. We do know that Chuck likes to punt, and we know that Pryce is just bad sometimes, so they should both theoretically give us a chance to win. The question is whether or not we can get it within a reasonable number of attempts. Like, it's one thing to have a possible victory. It's another thing if that victory requires just insane luck that you would never actually get in a run. So we're going to have to see what it actually looks like in the end. We, of course, do have 2 rare candies available to us too if we hit a major wall, but we'll just have to see if they're going to be useful here or not. First up, we've got Jasmine in front of us, and let's see how we do, since we know that we can't be paralyzed, and we know that we will deal decent damage to their Pokemon. Really, it's just a question of whether or not that Steelix is too bulky for us to get through, or if we have to set up some curse. So Jasmine attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to try going all in on attack first. We just Earthquake here on the Magnemite, which is an easy one-hitter as we get to level 32. Earthquake on the second Magnemite will also be a one-hitter 100% of the time. Now we're to the Steelix. I'm going Earthquake, and that did 36 damage. So this would be a 3-hit KO. Iron Tail one-shots me. So we're clearly not getting through just as we are. We're going to have to be much stronger. The question is, what do? We could try to set up Curse here. The problem is that we're going to get Supersonic or we're going to get Sonic Boom, both of which are kind of bad for us. So I don't think we can go crazy with the Curse here. We might be able to set up like 1, maybe 2 if we get the right setup. In fact, 3 if they just go Sonic Boom every turn. So we have 3 curses set up. We're still going to be faster than these Pokemon, it looks like, because of the fact that we're so fast to start with. And at this range, when we use Earthquake on Steelix, if we get a critical hit, it will be a one-shot. So we might even only need 1 curse to have that range to get a crit one-hit KO there. So I'm going to go for it. Let's do 1 curse, then just Earthquake that first Magnemite down, Earthquake down the second Magnemite, and then basically fish for the crit on the Steelix. Still, it doesn't look like that 1 is going to be quite enough. We didn't quite do half there. So we're going to probably have to set up 2 curses and then go for it from there. We may as well also just wait until we actually get to the Steelix. But the other possibility is to try to Body Slam and paralyze it. It's just not going to be a very good range there. Still, let's just try 2 curses and then into Earthquake. I don't think having a Healing Berry here really does anything for us. I think we're basically just best off going for this exact strategy. I think we can go for an extra curse if we get a miss from the Sonic Boom, which can happen some percentage of the time as well. So we'll just keep an eye on that. If we do start getting misses from the Magnemite, then we'll use that as an excuse. Or if we get, for example, a Supersonic miss, it's also a perfectly good excuse to just use another curse. This time we get an Iron Tail miss, allowing us to knock out the Steelix. That brings us to the final Magnemite, so we get the win this time against Jasmine. We had 2 curses set up, so that was really all that we needed. And if we can get that level of luck to get that Iron Tail miss, it's perfectly fine. So now with Jasmine done, we have to decide how to route from here. I think the best play is to go to Chuck. At least his first Pokemon doesn't have any super effective moves against us. We might be able to set up some curse right there and get a range that we need in order to knock out the Poliwrath. Poliwrath also likes to do some kind of silly things like going for Mind Reader, and that could give us a chance to get a victory as well. So time for Chuck, attempt number 1 here. I'm going to try first just going all in on attack. Let's see what Earthquake does. It's going to be a 2-hitter as we get a Leer from the Primeape. That brings out the Poliwrath. I'm going to go for Earthquake right here. We do slightly less than half, so it's going to be a 3-hitter as it tried to go Dynamic Punch. Let's Body Slam and paralyze it. It's fully paralyzed. Now Earthquake takes it all the way down to 1 HP, but fortunately it was paralyzed again, so we get a knockout Chuck on the first attempt. We level up. We could learn Slash here. I'm actually going to skip the move because I think Body Slam's more useful. So yeah, that's basically Chuck. He just kind of punted on what could have been a really easy fight if he just went for Surf instead of Dynamic Punch. But clearly because of the Leer, he would have had a 1-hit KO on us with Dynamic Punch. That must be why he wanted to use that move. So we cheesed the AI a little bit. That's always nice. But with that being done, we now have to go take on Pryce, and I expect this one could be brutal. Obviously, it's going to rely on whether or not he uses Blizzard and whether or not we can get some misses from it. We're also going to have to get to the final Piloswine, so hopefully Rock Slide does enough to the Dugong. Let's get into this one and find out. So first things first, we've got the Seal in front of us. I'm going to try going for Earthquake just to see what it does. It is not a 1-hit KO, so we take a lot of damage there. It's worth noting that a neutral Earthquake and a super effective Rock Slide are the same power. So if we aren't one-shotting the Seal, we're definitely not one-shotting the Dugong. We're going to have to reset here a few times. So I think the best play might be to go Body Slam here, hoping for paralysis on the first Pokemon. And if we don't get it, we might stick with Body Slam here on Dugong, hoping for the same thing. Then we can Earthquake, but we're just not going to survive from that level of HP. I think we might have a chance if we can get the paralysis on the Seal to set up like maybe 1 or 2 curses here. In fact, the Seal goes Rest, so I'm going to take this opportunity to just set up Curse, and then let's see if we can knock it out from there. Sure enough, we do. Our speed is down, so we're slower currently than this Dugong. It's going to go Aurora Beam and wreck us, so I think we have to change back to the Quick Claw. Basically, we're hoping the Quick Claw will activate after we've lowered our own speed with Curse and allow us to just one-hit KO the opponents. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go for Curse right here. Like, we know we're going to get some speed drops, but we're just going to accept that. But we do need to deal some damage to this Pokemon so that it will hopefully use Rest again. So here we've set up a bunch of curses, and now we're going to knock out that Seal, and now it's all about the Quick Claw. If it activates, we may have a shot of actually one-shotting against that Dugong. If it doesn't, we're basically going to be dead. And it's important to note that we don't necessarily need 2 Quick Claw activations, because the final Piloswine might just use Blizzard and miss, far more likely than us actually getting another Quick Claw. So here the Quick Claw does activate, allowing us to knock out the Dugong. We get to the final Piloswine. Of course, we're slower because we've set up all the curse, but we get the Quick Claw to activate, allowing us to knock it out and get to level 34. Like I said, there would have been a 30% chance for it to miss with Blizzard, which would have been perfectly fine with me too. So we actually do manage to beat Pryce within not that many resets. Still, it's not pretty. So the moral of the story is this: when you're a guy named Donch who becomes a channel member and you choose a Diglett as your Pokemon, I will go out of my way to make sure that it gets as far as I possibly can. And we have proven that it's not impossible to get here with this little Diglett here, but it's definitely going to be tough going forward. I don't know how we're actually going to perform against Claire. She could be really tough. We probably get completely wrecked by the league if we manage to get there. There could be a strategy against Lance with the Rock Slide plus Curse plus Quick Claw. The question is just how luck-based would that be? It depends on what our speed is, and if we outspeed against everything at that point. I'm not super confident in it, but hey, we're gonna try this. We're gonna do our best. Let's see how far this little Diglett can go. Anyway, thank you so much to Donch for joining the channel membership and choosing this Pokemon. If you'd like to choose your own Pokemon, check the link down in the description below of how to actually pick your Pokemon. At some point very soon, there will be an unlisted video that will just explain the process that you have to do after you become a channel member, as well as just, you know, timing of how often I actually update the backend. So yeah, just to stay tuned for that as well. It should pop up down there. If it's not up there by the time this video comes out, it should be up there very, very soon. But now with Diglett done, it's time to get back into our main challenge for today. Let's look at our fighting types and see how they do. We've got Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Hitmontop. I expect them to perform really, really well, but let's find out, starting with that Hitmonlee. Now, of course, Hitmonlee comes in with Mud Slap, Meditate, Swift, and High Jump Kick. And we're going to just have to see how good our moves are here as we get through this section. But honestly, I think we can go basically anywhere and get victories. I'm actually going to try to go down to Cyanwood since it's the most efficient routing. And let's just see if we can actually follow that routing to get through this section, given the fact that we do have strong same type moves, as well as Meditate to power up if we need to. Of course, beating Chuck will also give us a badge boost in fighting type moves, so it will make High Jump Kick even stronger. And that's the other real justification for coming down here with these fighting types, is as long as they're using a fighting type move, they will gain an advantage by beating this gym. Now, of course, it all starts off with the Black Belt Bros. We're coming in at the exact same level as the Hitmonlee in front of us. Let's see what our High Jump Kick does. We miss, so we didn't even get to use the move, and we lose after missing 2 High Jump Kicks in a row. Let's try this one again. This time we hit the High Jump Kick, and it's simply a one-hit KO. Our Hitmonlee is better than his Hitmonlee. That brings out Hitmonchan. We're going to go for the High Jump Kick again. We miss, but then we land the next one, and after that, maybe Swift will do the job. Sure enough, it does. So we managed to get through the Black Belt Bros on the second attempt. Now we can go through the rest of the trainers in the gym. And it basically seems that so long as High Jump Kick hits, we basically get the win. It is the strongest fighting type move in the game effectively. So I think this is perfectly fine. Let's get into the Chuck fight and see if we can get this one to go with this strategy. So we will need to put on a Mint Berry here to be safe. So Chucky boy, attempt number 1. Let's go ahead and just high jump kick his Primeape. That is a 1-hit KO. Out next comes the Poliwrath. We land the first high jump kick doing about half, but it gets a critical hit dynamic punch to one-shot me. That was probably pretty lucky. Let's try this one again. Once again, we destroy the Primeape. We're back to the Poliwrath. We do about half. It goes for Mind Reader, but then we don't quite get the 1-hit KO. It's a 2-hitter from there with 2 HP remaining. Fortunately, we wake up from hypnosis even after Mind Reader, and we're able to knock Chuck out on the next turn. So 2 attempts there to get through Chucky boy, really not too bad. And now we can move on in this challenge. Plus we get Fly, so we can move around more efficiently. So it's definitely a more efficient way through the game if you can come down here and actually beat Chuck immediately, which is why that should always be the priority if there is a logical way to get through him at this point. And with these Hitmons, I think that's generally going to be the case. I don't know though, Hitmonchan might be a little sus. But now with that done, I think there's nothing better to do than to go take on Jasmine, since we know that we have a super effective typing, and really if we just give a Paralyzed Cure Berry, we should be able to set up at least 1 Meditate at the start of the battle, and that might be all it takes to actually get through this, but let's see if that actually works out or not. Now, before we worry about Meditate strats, let's just go for high jump kick here on these Magnemites and just see how much damage we do. Of course, we one-shot that Pokemon. The second Magnemite also gets wrecked. That brings out the Steelix. We go high jump kick, doing about half. It hits Iron Tail, which did a lot, but then we missed the second high jump kick. We might be able to get the 2-hit KO there, even without going for any Meditates. So let's just try this one again. Next attempt, we get to Steelix on full health. We land the first high jump kick. It hits the Iron Tail, which is fine. We hit the second high jump kick and simply win that time. So again, just 1 reset there on Jasmine. It really wasn't too bad. We were able to get through, and now we're moving on towards the Rocket Hideout and Pryce, who really shouldn't be too bad. I think we're going to get through this section just fine, but let's just see if that's actually the case or not. Now, of course, we get through the entire Rocket Hideout super easily, in spite of the fact that many of the Rockets resist fighting because they're just weak enough that even Swift knocks them out from a Hitmonlee. But now we have to see how we do with this final Rocket Executive, who has the Arbok out first. Of course, against her, I'm going to lead off with Swift since it's my strongest move. It's going to take 2 Swifts to knock that Pokemon out. Murkrow, we can actually go high jump kick since it's neutrally effective. And now on the Gloom, I think we're back to Swift since it's neutral. It's going to take 2 hits to take that one down as well. But hey, it works. We managed to get through, and we're ready to move on to Pryce. So Pryce attempt number 1 right here. Let's just go for high jump kick on the first seal, and of course we had to miss. Still, we knock it out the next turn. Even after this speed drop, we're still faster than the Dugong, and we one-shot it. That brings out the Piloswine. We hit the high jump kick, and that's all it took. We get to level 34 as we defeat Pryce on the first attempt. So he's the only gym leader in this section who didn't cause a reset for Hitmonlee, and I think that's very appropriate as we get through this. But with Hitmonlee done, now the question is just how it's going to perform going forward, but at least fighting is neutrally effective against Dragon, so we should be fine in the next gym. So when we get to the league, then I'm worried, but we'll just see how that goes when we get there. For now, it's moving on, and let's check in on Hitmonchan. Now, it turns out that I played the entire Hitmonchan section only to come back and realize that I didn't record any of it. So if I seem a little clairvoyant at certain points in this one, it's because I've actually done this once before and I had to replay the entire game up to this point again just to pick up where we left off properly for this challenge. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down to Chuck's gym first, and my logic for this was pretty simple. We don't have any same type attack moves. We will get Mach Punch at level 32, though it's not really a great move. It's fairly weak. So I think that we need to get access to Dynamic Punch, giving us a stronger same type move for this section of the game. And I think that Headbutt will be enough, given that we'll already outspeed things inside of Chuck's gym. The biggest thing here is the fact that we've beaten Whitney and gotten access to her badge boost in speed. So even when we're at the same level as our opponent, we're typically going to outspeed them with any Pokemon that at least has decent speed just because of that badge boost. And that basically really gives us a massive advantage in this section. So let's get in here and take on the Black Belt Bros first and see how they go. Of course, we've got the Hitmonlee out first. We're just going to go Headbutt here on this one. And this is going to be a simple 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. That will bring out the Hitmonchan, which is also level 27, just like we are. But when we go Headbutt here, it's going to at least have a pretty decent chance of just 3-shotting this Pokemon. We might get a 2-hitter with the crit or like a better range. Still, we can get through those 2 trainers pretty darn consistently. Now we just have to get through the rest of the randos to get back to Chucky Boy here. So I'll heal really quick before we come back into this one. But basically, this one I think is just coming down to Hypnosis luck. If we have the Mint Berry on and get at least decent luck with Hypnosis misses, we should be able to win this fight. But let's just see how it actually goes in this attempt. So first up, we've got the Primeape. It's going to be a 2-hit KO with Headbutt, and it doesn't manage to do anything turn 1, so we get through just fine. That brings us to the Poliwrath. It hits Dynamic Punch turn 1, doing about half to us, and then it just hits a second Dynamic Punch. We can see this Pokemon's about a 4-hit KO with Headbutt, so we're going to need a better range than that to get through. What we're really banking on is flinches, though we can go for Mud Slap in order to try to get some misses as well. Both strategies are really fine. In fact, we may as well just give one Mud Slap just to make Dynamic Punch that much less accurate. Still, he'll go Mind Reader followed by Dynamic Punch, guaranteeing the hit on the next turn. He misses another Dynamic Punch though, and that allows us to win on the second attempt, which turns out to be exactly the same as my last result. I was able to beat him on the second attempt the first time I came here, and that gives us access to Dynamic Punch. And the fact is that Dynamic Punch is actually a pretty big upgrade on our moveset, because while yes, it is a little bit random, it's actually going to do a lot more damage than a move like Mud Slap or Ice Punch would do here. So I'm actually going to replace Ice Punch right now with Dynamic Punch, giving us access to that stronger physical same type move. We will get Mach Punch when we get to level 32, but for now I think Dynamic Punch is the better play. But now I'm gonna open Jasmine's gym, but not go directly there, because we're not gonna quite get the range that we want at this current level. We need to go through the Rocket Hideout, beat up all the rockets in order to gain a couple levels, and then take on Pryce. That is going to be the key to getting Jasmine in exactly the range where I want her. I think anything less would make that fight probably possible, but really, really luck-based. So now we make it to the final executive in the Rocket Hideout, where we're just going to go Headbutt on this first Arbok. It's a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. We can learn Mach Punch now as we get to level 32. I'm actually going to learn this over Mud Slap. That's going to be my strategy. Murkrow comes out. We're going to go for Dynamic Punch here since it's the strongest move, and then we'll go for Headbutt on the Gloom, getting a 1-hitter with a crit. I believe it's a 2-hitter without the critical hit there, but really not bad to get through that Pokemon. And with that, our next stop is going to be Pryce. We have Dynamic Punch and Mach Punch, so enough moves that we should be able to get through, but let's see how it actually works out. So Pryce attempt number 1 with Hitmonchan. Let's see how this fight actually works out. I'm going to lead off with just Headbutt on the Seal. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but that's perfectly fine. Out comes the Dugong. Let's go Dynamic Punch here. If we can manage the hit, it will be a 1-hit KO. We get to level 33. That brings out the Piloswine. We land the Dynamic Punch, and it goes down to a single critical hit. So yet again, we defeat Pryce on the first attempt, and that's kind of par for the course. But now we have to go back and take on Jasmine. Now, the entire issue with Jasmine is that her ace, the Steelix, has really high defense. So even when you're coming in with a super effective fighting type move, she just has the defense to tank that, which is why we need as many levels as possible to come back and take this fight. So in this one, against the Magnemites, we're just going to go Mach Punch. It's more than enough to knock them out. But when Steelix comes out, I'm going to switch to Dynamic Punch. We can see that this is going to be a 2-hit KO at this point. We even managed to confuse the Steelix. Then we can switch into Mach Punch. We nearly get the KO there, but then we can see it knocked us all the way down to 1 HP with a critical hit. Fortunately, we should still be able to get through this. But that is why we need to go to the Rocket Hideout first, because otherwise we're just getting 2-hit KO'd here and getting completely wrecked, which is not what we really want to see. It's just because the Hitmons have such low defense in this generation. If we miss all the Dynamic Punches, that's also an automatic reset on this. This time we get the second Magnemite out first, so we knock it out before the Steelix comes out. We land the Dynamic Punch again, getting the Confusion and a Iron Tail miss. and then we just knock it out the next turn. So that's perfectly fine. We'll take it. It's definitely not as consistent as the Hitmonlee. It's still possible to get through this whole section. It just doesn't feel quite as good because you're kind of stuck using Dynamic Punch if you want a strong same type move. Now, as we move on, of course, the Dragon Gym will not resist fighting type, so we'll probably stick with our moveset pretty much as it is. But then when we get towards the league, we're going to have to start thinking about changing this up with elemental punches and things like that. But it's a question of whether or not those moves will actually be strong enough on a Hitmonchan to get us through that section. I'm honestly not sure, but we'll test it as we get there. For now, Hitmonchan does move on. It's time to check in on Hitmontop. So here with Hitmontop, we're coming in with Dig, Focus Energy, Swift, and Rolling Kick. We will learn Counter in this section, which could be pretty useful, honestly, especially against the Steelix. If it hits us with Iron Tail, we may just be able to counter that move. So we'll keep that strategy in mind. But honestly, I think we need to take on as many randos as possible before we can get through this one. I'm going to go to Pryce first with this Pokemon. So of course, Hitmontop easily gets through to the end of the Rocket Hideout. So let's see how we do against the final Exeggutor here. She of course leads off with the Arbok. I'm just gonna go Dig and go ahead and get the 2-hit KO. It looks like we get Wrapped, but we can just keep using Dig here and then knock that Pokemon out the next turn. Against Murkrow, I will go for Rolling Kick since it's my same type move. We managed to knock that one out just fine. That brings out the Gloom. Swift and Dig are effectively the same power here. I'm just gonna go Swift and stay above ground. We get the 2-hit KO on that Pokemon, so it was really not that bad to get through. So let's make our way now to Pryce and see if he's beatable at our current level. So Pryce attempt number 1, he leads off with the Seal. Rolling Kick is our strongest move, so I'm just going to use it. We get a critical hit in one shot. Now against the Dugong, Rolling Kick is going to be a 2-hitter, but we get the flinch, allowing us to get to the final pile of swine. Once again, it's a 2-hitter, but we get another flinch, so we win on the first attempt and get to level 31. We get to learn Counter, and I'm going to go ahead and learn this move over Focus Energy. I think that it's worth it because Focus Energy, while yes, it does increase your critical hit chance, doesn't seem to help that much with crits. Like, we might go from trying to get 1 crit to trying to get 2 crits in a fight, but that would basically be it. And even then, it feels really luck-based. Counter gives us a solid strategy against the upcoming gyms, because now when we go up against Jasmine, for example, we may just be able to go for the counter strat. Same for the Poliwrath in Chuck's gym. We may just counter its move and one-shot it as long as we don't hit ourselves in confusion from the Dynamic Punch. So I think those strategies are going to be the simplest way to get through and honestly give us some easy one-hit KOs in certain spots. But for starters, let's go down to Chuck's gym and just see if we can get through all the randos that are in there, and then we'll make our way back to Jasmine at the very end. So first up, we've got the Black Belt Bros. We've got Hitmonlee out first. I don't think we'll one-shot, but what if we counter its Jump Kick? Sure enough, we get the 2-hit KO right there on that Pokemon. That brings out the Hitmonchan next. I'm just going to go Rolling Kick here. We missed the first one, but it's not like it does that much damage, so just 2 Rolling Kicks was all it took to get through that Pokemon. Now we can probably mostly go all in on attack here and really just change to the counter when we get to the Poliwrath. So let's just get through these randos and see how they go. And sure enough, we get to Chuck with no issues, so let's just see how he actually goes here. He's going to lead off with his Primeape, which I'm just going to use Rolling Kick against. This is going to be a 2-hit KO as it goes Leer against me, but that's kind of fine. I'm going to go for my counter here. We get Dynamic Punched, and unfortunately we hit ourselves in confusion there. But if we had managed to counter, I think we would have just one-hit KO'd the Poliwrath, so that's probably the strategy. Next attempt, we're back to Poliwrath. It misses Hypnosis turn 1. This time it seems to really want to use that move, so we'll simply go for the flinches with Rolling Kick and get the win that way instead. But with that, we can now move on to Jasmine, and she's the only trader available. I think Rolling Kick will do pretty decent damage here, so I feel reasonably confident getting through. And unlike Chuck, who's confusing us with his Dynamic Punch, we don't have any sort of secondary effect other than a defense drop from Iron Tail. So I think that we'll be able to use counter even more effectively against Jasmine in this next fight, which might make it pretty simple to get through. Still, we won't know until we try, so let's get into this fight and find out. First things first, against the Magnemites, Dig is the best play. It's guaranteed to one-shot, and they can't do anything to us while we're underground. So I'm just going to use that as my strategy to get through there. Now we get to the Steelix, and I'm going to go for the counter strat. She hits Iron Tail. We do massive damage back with a counter. Now we can go for the rolling kick after she's used her Hyper Potion, and it's just a 3-hit KO from there. And the fact that she Hyper Potioned gave us the turn that we would have needed to just whittle that one down. So yeah, it turns out that that's a perfectly valid strategy for getting through Jasmine with a Hitmontop, and all 3 Hitmons have now just completely crushed this section of the game. Like I said, I think they've got a little bit of a challenge coming for them because Willy Boy, obviously being a psychic type trainer, is going to be tough. Koga, I mean, with the poison types and bug types, is going to resist fighting type moves. Bruno will be kind of neutral. And then Karen, yet again, she's got a Gengar on the team. So while yes, she's a dark trainer and fighting's good against dark, the Gengar and the Vileplume could be pseudo walls there. So we'll just have to see how that actually works out. And if we get to Lance, that's where I'm most worried about these Pokemon. I think elemental punches are going to have to come into play wherever they're possible. Of course, in the case of a Pokemon like Hitmontop that doesn't get those, that could be rough. That could be really, really rough. We'll just have to see if it works out or not. But for now, these Pokemon are through. Let's check on our progress so far. And just like that, we're about halfway through our challengers today, with everything getting through, which is kind of part of the course. We kind of expected that, but now it's time to look at our normal types. We have 4 of these Pokemon: Lickitung, Kangaskhan, Aipom, and Dunsparce. I'm going to go just in that order. Let's start with Lickitung and see if it can find a way through in spite of its fairly low speed. So Lickitung is coming in with Stomp, Mudslap, Rollout, and Defense Curl. I think this Pokemon's going to do the best against Pryce, so that's where I'm going to go first. We're more scared of the fighting gym because of the fact that we are weak against fighting, and we don't have the speed necessarily to actually match up to those opponents. We'll have to see what our speed stat actually is when we get there, though. We have a very high possibility of trading out one of our moves for an elemental punch or for the move Surf at the right moments, so we'll just keep that in mind as well as possible strategies to get through. Our attack and special are actually fairly balanced, though neither of them are amazing with this Pokemon, but it does at least mean that strategies like elemental punches should be somewhat viable depending on the situation. Still, our physical attack stat is our best stat, so we're going to tend towards Stomp as much as possible, really only going to other moves when normal type is resisted or ineffective. But here we get to the final Rocket Executive with really no issues in the underground. We can go for the Defense Curl Rollout strat or the Stomp strat, I think, but I'm going to try Defense Curl Rollout, especially because it's going to be pretty good against the Murkrow. So here with the Defense Curl set up, it's going to take 3 hits to knock out the Arbok, but we do take it down. Gloom comes out next and gets wrecked, and that brings out the final Murkrow. It hits Peck, but that didn't do nearly enough, and we just destroyed that Pokemon. So we got through that nice and easy, and it's time to go take on Pryce. Pryce leads off with his Seal, of course. I'm just going to go for the Defense Curl here first. We get Icy Wind and get a speed drop, but I don't think it's the end of the world here. We'll just go for our Rollout and hope to build it up enough to knock that Pokemon out. It's a 2-hitter on the Seal. We get an Aurora Beam from Dugong, but just knock it out the next turn. Piloswine comes out and misses Blizzard, allowing us to get the very easy victory as we get to level 31. We could learn Disable, but I'm not going to learn that move. I just don't honestly think that we need it. Who knows? It could be a mistake. Tell me in the comments, but I think generally speaking, the 55% chance to disable a move that's already been used against us is not that valuable as we get later and later in the game, and more we really want the coverage to knock out our opponents. Plus the Defense Curl is just kind of good against physical attackers, giving us at least a chance to raise our defense and survive. But now we have to at least take ourselves down to Cyanwood in order to pick up the secret potion, and I'm honestly not sure what I want to do. We could start replacing the move Stomp with something else. on the basis that Stomp is just weaker than Headbutt, and we already have Headbutt in the bag as a TM. So we could go for some, Fire Punch or something in order to try to get through Jasmine more easily. I'm going to at least try the randos inside of Chuck's gym though, just to see what they look like right now with our normal type Pokemon. So we've got the Black Belt Bros out first. We go for Stomp as Double Kick does massive damage. This is going to be a 2-hitter. We just easily get wrecked by that Hitmonlee. That I think perfectly encapsulates why we're going to need to get the Mineral Badge to have more defense, then we might be actually surviving 2 hits there. So here I'm going to learn Fire Punch on my Lickitung over Stomp just to see how this actually works out in this fight. So Jasmine attempt number 1, we go Fire Punch on the Magnemite. That is a 1-hit KO. Fire Punch on the second Magnemite is not quite a 1-hitter. It just barely misses the range. But now we get to the Steelix, which has significantly lower special defense. Fire Punch does a lot with a critical hit there. So she's gonna have to go for the Hyper Potion the next turn. And it should be a 2-hit KO from here. Now we got a defense drop, which is the reason the next Iron Tail did knock us out. That was pretty unlucky, but it seems like this should ultimately work out. The next attempt, we just one-shot the 2 Magnemites, bringing us back to the Steelix, once again getting a critical hit. We get a defense drop yet again here, so I'm actually going to go for a Mud Slap just to try to reduce accuracy a little bit, and then back to our Fire Punch, and we get the range to knock it out. So we get to level 32 as we defeat Jasmine on the next attempt. Really not too bad. But now we have to go back to Chucky Boy and see if we can find a way through his gym. And this is honestly the hardest part with this Pokemon, is that we might just be getting wrecked by all the fighting type moves. And if we don't get good enough ranges, we just simply won't be able to progress quickly enough. Still, I'm going to learn Headbutt over Fire Punch since that move is no longer really useful here. And Headbutt is just a little bit stronger than what we were dealing with previously with that Stomp. We'll also throw on the Quick Claw just to be safe, because that may be the required strategy here. So back to the Hitmonlee, it did slightly less than half. So we survived 2 hits, but now we have to take on the Hitmonchan back to back with it. And this is where it gets tough. The Ice Punch did 7 damage, but we just get wrecked after that because we couldn't get a flinch. We need a Quick Claw activation here, I think, in order to win. This time we do get the Quick Claw on the Hitmonlee, so we're going to the Hitmonchan with 69 HP, which is perfect. Plus we get a Comet Punch miss, and that allows us to finally get through the 2 Black Belt Bros. The fact is that that is not consistent, and it's even worse because of how low our speed is. We're just not out speeding against anything here, so we generally get wrecked by the fighting type moves, and there's not much that we can really do about it. Still, we do manage to get to Chucky Boy himself, so let's just see how this actually goes. Is Headbutt enough to get us through here, or are we going to need some serious luck? So Chuck attempt number 1, he leads off with the Primeape that goes for Leer. We then get a Quick Claw activation, so we just 2-shot that Pokemon. Now against the Poliwrath, we also got the turn 1 Quick Claw activation, but then we get put to sleep and it uses Mind Reader, and Dynamic Punch just does massive damage. So we do manage to wake up and use a Headbutt, but we would need at least 1 more hit if we're going to get through this. I'm not sure we would actually get the range. So here we may need to use Defense Curl in order to increase our defense first. So I'm going to go for that on the Primeape, but of course critical hits will simply ignore our defense boosts. So we might need to go for some accuracy drops first in order to have a chance of actually setting up our defenses. So I went for 2 accuracy drops first on the Primeape this time, and now I'm going into the Defense Curl, just trying to raise my defense as much as possible. And now we'll knock this Pokemon out. Not sure if it's actually going to help against this Poliwrath, but we do get a critical hit and then just manage to knock it out when it misses Hypnosis. So we actually managed to win against Chuck, but it's really not pretty. You need Quick Claw luck, you need accuracy luck, you need all kinds of luck there. Going for some accuracy drops on Poliwrath might actually be the best play, just because so many of its moves are inaccurate, but I don't think there's any way that you're consistently getting through on minimum battles here. Still, we did get it to go this time. Let's check in now on Kangaskhan. Now, Kangaskhan is running Bite, Leer, Headbutt, and Mudslap. Bite is at least a special type move, but I'm not sure it's going to be very good in this section. And Mudslap might not be strong enough to really get us through anything. So I think, again, Surf and or Elemental Punches are likely to be used in this part of the game. Still, I'm going to follow the same strategy of going to Pryce first, since he doesn't have any super effective moves against us, and he does not resist normal type, which might be the main strategy for getting through here. And thanks to Stab Headbutt, the entire Rocket hideout really isn't that hard with this Pokemon, so we can get straight to the end here against the final Rocket Executive, where it's probably a 2-hit KO against the Arbok, but let's just see. We lead off with the Headbutt, and sure enough, it's a 2-hitter, but we easily get through that Pokemon. Out next comes the Gloom. We'll just Headbutt here as well. We nearly get the 1-hitter. We'll just bite it down from there. That brings out Murkrow, where we just go back to Headbutt and get a 1-hit KO. So really never in question. We got through that fight super easily. And now, unlike the previous run with the Lickitung, we have decent enough speed to actually outspeed everything here. So we should have a much easier time on Pryce. We'll have to see how it goes against Jasmine. Chuck, again, we should outspeed, so we should get a pretty big advantage in that fight as well. So Pryce attempt number 1. Let's just see how he goes here with the Seal. I'm going for Headbutt. It's going to be a 2-hit KO as he goes Icy Wind. He gets the speed drop, but that shouldn't matter. We should still be faster than the Dugong. Sure enough, we are. This looks like a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon. We get through nice and easy getting the level 30. That brings out the Piloswine. It's going to be a 3-hitter as well. It misses the first Blizzard. Then it flinches. Then he Hyper Potions, and we just need to not get KO'd here. We do not, so we easily get through that fight on the first attempt against Pryce. Now, it appears that we did not do the Lighthouse previously with this Pokemon. We didn't need it in order to get through Morty, so we'll even gain a couple more levels before we take on Jasmine and Chuck. And the fact that we've already gotten through Pryce gives me a fair amount of confidence that we're going to be fine here, but let's see if that's actually the case, or do we run into a wall somewhere? Now, I'm pretty sure I want to take on Jasmine next, so I'm going to go through the Lighthouse and get her quest so that we can just efficiently go down to Cyanwood and get ready to come back up here and fight her. I think Fire Punch will be the main strategy there. We'll simply replace the move Leer with that and see if that gives us enough to get through. So here against Jasmine, I don't expect any of our current moves to do all that much to her, so I'm going to go Fire Punch here over Leer and just see if that's enough to get us through. So Jasmine attempt number 1 against the Magnemite, we'll go Fire Punch. It does not get the 1-hitter. It's going to be a 2-hit KO here. So I guess we have to go Mudslap there. Let's just see what Mudslap does. It's doing about the same amount of damage as the Fire Punch. So there's no way that we're getting through this with just 1-hit KOs on those Pokemon without crits. So I think we go Mudslap against the 2 Magnemites. Let's see how that goes. So next attempt, we put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry and go Mudslap against the first Magnemite. It misses with its Thunder Wave. Second Magnemite comes out. It hits Thunder Wave, but we get a recover, so that's perfectly fine, getting us to the Steelix. Now let's see what Fire Punch does. It looks like this might be a 3-hit KO. We get a nice Iron Tail miss turn 1, then a critical hit though. Still, she doesn't use the Hyper Potion, so we managed to win on the next attempt there when we actually had everything set up properly. So hey, Jasmine, she's not perfectly consistent, but she is possible even at level 31 with this Kangaskhan. We still didn't fight any of the randos inside of Chuck's gym, so now it's time to just get down to that gym and see how it actually goes. I'm a little bit nervous. Obviously, Headbutt strats will be one way that we could possibly get through. Otherwise, we could think about Thunder Punch for that Poliwrath, but it's probably just not going to do great damage. So I'm going to try as I am right now, but let's see how this actually works out. Against the first Hitmonlee here, of course, we will Headbutt. We get a critical hit to just one shot, so that's perfectly fine. Out comes the Hitmonchan. We'll Headbutt here as well. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we get a flinch, so a very easy victory against the Black Belt Bros. Now we just have to get through the other randos, and it's on to Chucky Boy. And sure enough, we get to Chuck with no issues. So let's just see how this goes. I think we have to put on a Mint Berry just to be safe. And now it's just time to see if we can manage the win here or not. So Chuck attempt number 1, he leads off with the Primeape. We go for the Headbutt here, getting a 1-hit KO. Poliwrath comes out next, but we are faster than this Pokemon. We do just a little less than half with our first headbutt. I'm going to Mud Slap here to lower accuracy. He goes Mind Reader and then Hypnosis, but I don't think that matters. We'll just go Headbutt there to finish him off, getting to level 34. So sure enough, that was perfectly fine to get through that fight. And we have managed to complete this section with Kangaskhan. Now, Kangaskhan I have more confidence in going forward because it has higher speed, and obviously high speed plus the normal typing plus at least decent enough coverage, I think will allow us to get pretty deep into this challenge, but we'll just have to see how it actually turns out. For now, it moves on though, and let's move on to Aipom and see how it goes in this section. So Aipom comes in with Strength, Ice Punch, Mud Slap, and Fury Cutter. We're still definitely slanted towards being a physical attacker, and we're faster, so we should be pretty much fine, I think, but we may have to swap out our moves quite a bit yet again in this section, especially for that Fire Punch for Jasmine, but let's just see how this actually works out. Now, Aipom here did swap out Strength instead of Headbutt, which does affect things a little bit here because it's more of an all-out power move than going for flinches. And so if we get a situation where we don't quite get the one-hit KO range, we might actually be better off with the Headbutt, but we can always replace Ice Punch with any move and then just replace Ice Punch again later on. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal. We could run Headbutt and Strength at the same time on this Pokemon if we actually need such a strategy. Now, for now, I am swapping out Ice Punch for Fire Punch just because I think it's going to be more useful in a lot of this section of the game. We'll see if that actually turns out to be the case, but given that it will also be super effective against some of Pryce's team and it's going to be super effective against Jasmine, I'm going to start with that move on my moveset and worry about the other moves later on. It's always worth remembering we have plenty of money here, so we don't really have any issue affording any of the elemental punches. We can pretty much change them out at will without even worrying about running out of money. So I can be pretty willy-nilly about that as we go through this section. So we make it to the final executive, again with no real issues. We'll go Strength here on the Arbok. It's still going to be a two-hitter, but we can get through this one just fine, I think. That will bring out the Gloom next. We'll just Fire Punch this Pokemon. It's going to be a two-hitter, but it's really not too bad. And that brings out the Murkrow finally. Let's just go back to Strength since it's our strongest move and get the one-hit KO. So pretty easy to get through that. I'm going to go ahead and take care of these Electrodes and get straight to Pryce. And assuming that we can beat him, then we'll go to Jasmine, then we will go to Chuck. I think that is the best routing through this section. So Pryce attempt number 1 coming in. Let's see if Strength is enough to get through, or do we need to use Fire Punch in some spots? I'm not entirely sure, but here against the Steel, I'm going to lead off with the Strength, which just barely misses getting a one-hit KO. Still, we knock it out in 2. Out next comes the Dugong. This looks like it's just barely not a 2-hitter. It's a 3-hit KO. Still, we managed to get through that Pokemon as we get to level 33. Piloswine comes out. Let's just see what the Fire Punch does here. It looks like this is going to be a 3-hitter with that move. Strength might actually be stronger. And then did we not save going into that fight? And sure enough, it turns out I did not save before I actually took on Pryce. And this is one of those things that I get comments about all the time. Somebody's like, why did you save 2 times in front of this trainer? Why did you save 3 times in front of this trainer? Whatever. You got to understand that if I've been sitting here for hours doing all of these runs, I honestly forget whether I saved or not. And in that case, it's way better to save and not actually have needed to save than it is to not save and then have to go back for 15 minutes and redo the entire section again, which is why I'm pretty liberal about saving as much as it irritates people, because honestly, it saves tons of time. That's the entire point of me saving in front of these places, is so that when I do make a mistake, I can simply go back to where I saved. It bites me sometimes because maybe I wasn't recording and I already saved and now I have to replay the run up to that point. But that happens way less often than what just happened here, where I thought I had saved before Pryce, but I didn't. So I ended up having to go all the way back to Morty and redo this entire section. So let's get into our second attempt at Pryce here and just see how he goes. And I got to get that Fire Punch back on. So just a second while I get that set up. There we go. So now let's try this properly with Fire Punch on the moveset and just see how this actually works against good old Pryce, we're going to lead off, of course, with Strength on Seal. It's still going to be a 2-hit KO no matter what we do there. That brings out the Dugong, where once again we can go for the Strength here. If this doesn't work, we could try Fury Cutter strats trying to build it up, especially because our attack stat is getting dropped here by Aurora Beam. Still, we make it to Piloswine. It goes missed this time. We'll go for the Fire Punch again right there. He Hyper Potions, and then he finally hits the Blizzard and knocks us out. But if we had one more turn, we would have won there. So I'm going to just reset and try this one again. So my question now is, does Fury Cutter ever build up enough to give us a better range here? Since obviously it's not a terribly strong move, but if we can just build it up nicely on the seal, we may reach a point where we can just one-shot things. We just barely missed 1-hit KOing against the Dugong there, but we get to level 33 as Piloswine comes out. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. He goes for the Hyper Potion here, and from this range, we can simply go Fire Punch and end it. So yeah, the Fury Cutter strat by setting up on the seal was a way to actually get through that one. With that, we can now make our way back. I think we have to try Jasmine next and then go to Chucky Boy, but honestly, this might not be great. The Fire Punch being our only real play here is a little bit of a hindrance. Now, normally if you do like a standard solo run where you're fighting, random trainers here and there, whenever they make sense, whenever they get in your way, fighting some wild Pokemon, etc., it's not actually that bad with Aipom. I've seen runs with Aipom where it's actually performed pretty well overall in a speed run type of solo challenge. The difference here is that we're specifically going minimum battles, and we've found over and over again that there are a lot of Pokemon that people doubt could do minimum battles that actually turn out able to do it, or at least able to get really far on minimum battles. Like, I don't think anybody would have predicted half of the Pokemon that we still have in the running would still be here by the time that we're getting to the second half of Johto. And while I get it that for speed, yeah, you don't necessarily want to go minimum battles, you want to get better ranges and get effectively more clear strategies for winning certain fights. But it is always really interesting, for me at least, to see just how strong we actually can become without taking those optional battles, just by thinking about our movesets. So here with our Aipom, just be aware that you may have seen some runs where Aipom is really, really OP, and this one is probably not going to be quite that level, but I do think it has a decent chance of getting through here. But like I said, we might have to go the headbutt strat when we get down to Chuck's gym. So for now, I'm going to go to Jasmine with my Fire Punch and see how this actually works. So Jasmine attempt number 1 right here. Let's just see how she goes with this Aipom. Here we have the Fire Punch, we have the Mud Slap. I'm not sure which is going to be better. Here I'm going to try the Fire Punch because while we do have a lower special attack stat, the opponent also has a lower special defense stat, and it's super effective. So it's effectively 150 base power. It just doesn't quite get the range to get the one-hitter. We get a Thunderbolt, so that means that either way we're 2-hit KOing here against these Magnemites, but they're probably getting a good enough range that they think they can just try to knock us out. That brings us to the Steelix. Let's just see the range we get with Fire Punch. It did 43 damage, so this is a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon. So with that information in tow, let's go ahead and change our strategy slightly here. Number 1, if we're not getting Thunder Wave from those Magnemites, then I think the best play is to go Mud Slap first and then try to knock them out the next turn. We'll do the same on the second Magnemite, but this time we're not getting Thunderbolt, we're getting Thunder Wave. So there must have just been something in their AI that sometimes makes them go Thunderbolt against us instead of Thunder Wave. Now that I know that, I will go for the Paralyzed Cure Berry. I didn't go for Paralyzed Cure Berry before because I thought we were taking damage and I thought maybe having a berry would help us out. But now that we know that we are getting Thunder Waved sometimes here, now I think we go Mud Slap on these Magnemites, hoping one of them misses the Thunder Wave and that the other one, if it does hit, we just recover immediately. This time they just both miss, which is perfectly fine as we get to level 34 here. We'll go Mud Slap first on the Steelix just to lower its accuracy as much as we can, because 2 Iron Tails will be enough to just destroy us. So we'll need quite a bit of luck here, but once we get through the accuracy, now we can go the Fire Punch. She's gonna Hyper Potion, but we know this is a 3-hit KO. We just need one more miss. We couldn't get it. We got so close on that one though. So honestly, if we just get slightly better luck, we should be able to get this one to go. Back once again to the Steelix here. Obviously Mud Slap does like no damage, so this is really just about the accuracy strats. We get a critical hit Fire Punch that almost takes her down, She goes for the Hyper Potion, but I'm just YOLOing it because we're on full health. So even if she hits, we're just going to knock her out the next turn. So we managed to get through Jasmine without too many attempts there. It's mostly just a matter of like a critical hit there on the Steelix, causing it to get in the healing rage one turn sooner, and accuracy strats. But I mean, that's kind of par for the course. We've seen that a lot with Jasmine, that accuracy is the key, but it helps a lot when you're faster and you at least have a follow-up to the Mud Slaps. The Mud Slaps themselves just aren't going to do a lot of damage to the Steelix. It's more just about getting that Iron Tail, which is already 75% accurate, to miss a lot more. Anyway, with that done, we can now make our way over to Chucky Boy's gym. Let's see how we do against the Black Belt Bros here. Against the Hitmonlee, we're going to go Strength, and that is enough to one-hit KO, fortunately. Second Black Belt Bro comes out with the Hitmonchan. We're just going to stick with the Strength. It's going to be a two-hitter, but fortunately, Thunder Punch didn't do that much. We get to level 35 here. We are in the fast level up group, so we're gaining levels a little bit faster than the other Pokemon so far in the episode, which is definitely helping Aipom a little bit here. We nearly one-shot the Machoke here, but we just didn't quite get the range. Still, that makes me think that the rest of the randos aren't really going to be that hard, so let's just get through this. Now, we can learn Screech at this level. I'm not sure if it's entirely worth it, but we can replace the move Fire Punch with this move just to see. Maybe there's a situation where Screech helps us, and Fire Punch is replaceable. So I think this is a reasonable strategy at least. And with that, let's make our way to Chucky Boy and just see how he actually goes. We'll of course hold the Mint Berry as we come in, and maybe we get the ranges with Strength. Let's find out. Chuck attempt number 1, we go Strength turn 1, and that one-shots the Primeape. Out comes the Poliwrath, we go Strength. We did about half. A Dynamic Punch did a lot of damage to us here. Still, we knock him out on the next turn, so we get through just fine on the first attempt against Chucky Boy. So really not too bad getting through with that Pokemon, but now we have one last normal type, that is Dunsparce. Let's see if the little rage-filled being that it is capable of actually getting through this section, or is it finally going to hit a wall? Now, Dunsparce got to this point in the game with Dig, Defense Curl, Strength, and Glare as its moveset. And we do have a fair number of TMs that are available to us. We could get Headbutt, we could get Rollout, Dig, Iron Tail, Thunder if we really need it. Return also is available. This is another one of those weird Pokemon that doesn't have a sleep move, but for some reason learns Dream Eater and Nightmare, which I guess could work if the opponent uses Rest. That could be a strategy. But honestly, the question here just becomes, do we deal enough damage with anything to get through Jasmine and Chuck? I think Chuck will be possible. Jasmine might be a little more questionable since most of our decent moves here don't really do that much, especially since Dig is not really going to be that great against the Steelix, just due to its high defense stat. Still, we won't really know until we try, so let's get into this, and I'm going to lead off by going to the Rocket Hideout, of course. I think this is the best way to progress. Let's just go ahead and get as many levels as possible and take on Pryce before we worry about the rest of the gym leaders, because I think Pryce will probably be the easiest of the gym leaders with this Pokemon. Worst case scenario, we can go for the Defense Curl rollout strat and probably destroy everything. And of course, Dunsparce gets to the end of the Rocket Hideout with no issues. Stab's strength is pretty strong at this point, pretty much took everything out in a single hit. There was like one Raticate that survived 2 hits. So I think we're going to two-shot here against the Arbok with strength, which I think is perfectly fine. We could even go Dig here since it is super effective. Out next comes the Gloom. Strength is the only play here. It's going to get a 2-hit KO, but we just get a Sweet Scent, so that's an easy victory as we get to level 30. We could learn Screech at this level, and honestly, that could be a strategy against Jasmine, because we could lower the defense of the Steelix and get a better range with Dig. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to forget Defense Curl. This move is relearnable later on via TM, and while yes, Defense Curl rollout strats are pretty good, we're not even using rollout yet on this moveset, so I think this might be the best play. I think I want to keep Glare for the chance to paralyze the opponent, so let's just try this strategy as we go forward. Now against the Murkrow, it goes Pursuit and does basically nothing, and Strength just one-shots, so we get through the Executive nice and easy. But let's just see if our moveset now is enough to get through this next section. It's also worth remembering that there is a move deleter in Blackthorn, which we can get to as soon as we get through this section. So if we want to forget the move move Strength, we can actually do so once we get to that point in the game. Really, that would only be a consideration if we reach the point of getting like Return or something though, because we would always want to have a strong same type move on this Pokemon, but we'll also keep that in mind as just a possibility as we progress in the game later on. For now though, we're going to run with this moveset as it is and just see if it happens to be enough to get us through the next section. And first things first, before we even try to make our way down to Chucky Boy or Jasmine, we're going to take on Pryce and just see if we can get a victory here. Screech might help if we can effectively double the damage of our main attacking move. For example, in some cases get a chance to critical hit in one shot with a couple screeches, so we'll just have to keep that in mind. Here, let's go for the first attempt here, though, against Pryce. Against his Seal, I'm going to just go Strength. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but we get a Headbutt, which is perfectly fine by me. We'll just knock that Pokemon out the next turn. Out next comes the Dugong. We hit Strength. This looks like it's going to be a 3-hitter, and this Pokemon managed to lower our attack with an Aurora Beam, at which point we're probably getting wrecked here. And sure enough, we just go down. I was trying to set up a Screech so that I could get a better range after the attack drop, but really I think we need no attack drop here if we're going to get through. So Pryce round number 2, I'm going to just go all in on attack on the Seal, but this time I'm actually going to glare at the Dugong to give a chance for it to be fully paralyzed. I Screech, it's fully paralyzed again, and that nearly allows me to one-shot with Strength. So that was pretty good. That brings out the Piloswine. I'm going to glare again just to paralyze it. We take a Blizzard, but we can tank that pretty well. And this is going to be a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon. He's just fully paralyzed 2 turns in a row. And now if he doesn't knock us out this turn, we will win. We survive with 4 HP. So the paralysis did allow us to get through on the second attempt against Pryce. It's maybe not the prettiest range, but it is definitely possible to get through there just with these Strength strats and Glare strats with a little bit of Screech mixed in just for some good measure. With a Screech, you would also be 2-hit KOing there on the Piloswine, which can be really good if you can get the opponent into a healing loop because they just won't be able to attack again before you knock them out. So there are some considerations there, probably slightly better strats with the Screech if you use it appropriately, but we get through either way. And now the next couple of gyms are all just physical attackers, which is the one reason why I kind of wanted to keep Defense Curl, but I just decided against it in the end because I think it's going to be the better play against Jasmine. But for now, let's just make our way down to Chuck's gym. Let's see how we do against the randos in there. If we're getting completely wrecked by, say, the Hitmonlee and we can't one-shot there with Strength, then we might have to route differently where we take on Jasmine first, which would not be ideal. But if that's the only way we can progress, we're just going to have to try to do it. So let's just see how the Black Belt Bros actually go with this Dunsparce. Against the first Hitmonlee, I'm just going Strength here. Double Kick did nearly half, and then Strength is a 2-hitter, but we get the Quick Claw activation on the second turn, allowing us to knock that Pokemon out. We were 4 points in speed slower than the Hitmonlee, so we would have to burn rare candies if we wanted to be in a speed tie. Still, that gets us to the Hitmonchan, which does not know any fighting type moves, so we may be able to get through right here. Sure enough, this looks like a 2-hit KO, and Ice Punch did nothing. So the Black Belt Bros do go down. Let's see if we can get through the rest of the randos here, and who knows, we might just take our first attempt at Chuck since he will Dynamic Punch here and give us a chance to possibly get a victory. And sure enough, we get through the rest of the randos in the gym with no issues. So after a quick heal, I'm ready for my first try against Chuck. Now, I think we'll already outspeed against the Poliwrath, so I'm going to try to go into this with the Mint Berry in case he tries to put me to sleep. But if it turns out that we are actually slower, then I will consider going back to the Quick Claw here. But let's just see if this works out or not. Chucky Boy attempt number 1 against his Primeape. I'm just going for the Strength. He went Fury Swipes against me and got a 3-hitter, but then he misses the next Fury Swipe, so we knock it out in 2 hits. That brings out the Poliwrath. I'm going to glare at it, trying to paralyze this Pokemon. It hits a Dynamic Punch and confuses me, which is kind of bad. And then we miss our Screech and then hit ourselves in confusion. So unfortunately, we go down on the first attempt, but I think we can manage a way to get through this. This time we take a Leer from the Primeape though, and that guarantees that a Dynamic Punch will simply one-shot us. So here I really think we want to land the paralysis. We just didn't get it this time. Next attempt, attempt, the Primeape is back to using Fury Swipes, which is much better for us. And we managed to land the Glare on the Poliwrath. Let's just see what Strength does. It does slightly less than half. So I'm going to Screech once here as he goes Mind Reader, and then just Strength to knock it out on the next turn. So just a few attempts to get through Chuck there. He's not going to be consistent by any means with this Pokemon, but at least having Paralysis gives you a chance to get through from him just having that 1 in 4 chance to miss. You could also try to go for Hypnosis or Mind Reader, giving you a free turn effectively. And because we saw that we're not getting one-shot by the Dynamic Punch, at least when there's not a Leer on us from the previous Pokemon, turns out that that's not really that terrible to get through. But now we have to make our way to Jasmine, and this is the one that I'm really nervous about. I'm going to give the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and my strategy is basically going to be to Glare and Screech at the Steelix, hoping that we can manage to get it in a range where we deal enough damage that we can actually knock that Pokemon out. Keeping in mind, it already has a 25% chance to miss with Iron Tail, and then when we add on the chance that it will also not move on a given turn, that should at least give us a chance of getting through this fight. So Jasmine attempt number 1, let's see how she actually works out. She's going to lead off with the Magnemite, which is really no problem. We're faster, we know Dig, so I'm just going to Dig right here, and this will be a guaranteed one-hit KO, even without healing coming in. Next one, we can also Dig in one shot, so that's perfectly fine. So really, the Paralyzed Cure Berry does nothing for us. Maybe a Healing Berry or something would be better here. I'm not entirely sure. Iron Tail did pretty decent damage, but we get Glare the next turn. I'm going to Screech at the Steelix once, and now go for Dig just to see what damage we do. With a single Screech, that did 39 damage. So this is going to be a 3-hit KO with 1 Screech. Let's see what 2 Screeches does for us, as we can now Dig again after getting an Iron Tail miss. We nearly KO it. We're down to 4 HP remaining, and she goes for the Hyper Potion, but now I think I just go for Dig and hope for the Paralysis luck. We actually get the Iron Tail miss, which is all we need, and we beat Jasmine on the first attempt. Even without healing coming into the battle, Screech does allow us to get that to go, especially when you combine it with the Paralysis. And that is basically the ace up Dunsparce's sleeve. The fact that it has Glare so it can paralyze opponents is kind of massive at this point in the game. That one turn of the opponent being paralyzed is basically what you need to set up Screech and then get ranges. So there could be a reasonable chance of running with this sort of moveset. Maybe we replace Dig with something else at some point, but for now, we're ready to move on to Claire with this Pokemon, and Dunsparce is kind of outperforming my expectations. I did not expect this Pokemon to be that good, and it's still here after 7 gyms on minimum battles, which is kind of nuts. In fact, I was watching a video fairly recently from another Pokemon content creator where he was ranking the worst Gen 2 Pokemon, and I was kind of laughing as I was watching it because some of the Pokemon that he listed as the worst Pokemon in the generation are actually still here in the Minimum Battle series. And it really just goes to show that it's one thing to spout opinions about Pokemon, and we all have our opinions, but it's very different to actually test all of these Pokemon on a hardcore challenge setting. Yes, granted, we're running the best possible versions of these Pokemon with max DVs, but you can get situations where Pokemon actually dramatically overperform what you would have expected them to do based on just looking at their move sets or like the level that you could catch them wild at. In a solo challenge, they might actually be better than you think. And now, with our normal types done, we are up to 67 Pokemon passing through this section of the game completely legitimately. Add on another 15 that need to go for some OPTMs, but that means that 82 Pokemon are still legitimately in the running. That's like a third of all the Pokemon in Gen 2, and we haven't even completed the series. I'm willing to bet that we're going to have well over 100 Pokemon still available to go to Claire, which is insane. Like, I did not expect at all that so many Pokemon would still be progressing in this challenge, especially when we found back in the Falkner section that some Pokemon like Venusaur, for example, that are fully evolved, completely failed even to beat the first gym, and yet we're taking a bunch of these fairly middling Pokemon all the way through most of Johto. But now, before we get into our last two challengers, Sudowoodo and Gligar, which I think might actually fail here, let's get to one more member pick, which is that Unown, but it is the Super Unown because it always has a super effective move against everything. Let's see how this works out. So a special thank you, of course, to MantisFan7 for supporting SuperUnown here. Now, as mentioned, our hidden power is always effectively the best typing against the opponent, but because we can't change the hidden power typing in the middle of a battle, we're gonna have to manipulate it a little bit by changing the typing of our opponent to make sure that they're as weak to us as possible. If there is a type that would be 4 times super effective against the opponent, we will have to change both of their typings to be weak against us. If the opponent has only one typing, I'm going to stick with the hidden power Dark primarily since that's max DVs, and I'm going to give the opponent something like the Ghost type as a secondary typing, or at least as a typing that doesn't affect the same type of attack bonus on their moves as much as possible. If there's a case where really we would need a physical hidden power typing to properly judge just how good this Pokemon would be, we may switch to a physical hidden power typing at some point. First up though, we've got to take on the Black Belt Bros. Here we get hit by a high jump kick that did really good damage, and man, we are not doing anything with our hidden power, but it seems like the super effectiveness was not coming in, so let me fix that very quickly. We are also slower here, which is why I'm going to give the Quick Claw, but at this point it seems like we need to go hidden power flying to get this one to work. So coming back to this fight with hidden power flying, we're going to deal more damage because of the fact that the Hitmonlee has significantly lower defense than special defense. So this is now a pure 2-hit KO, allowing us to get through the first Black Belt Bro. That brings out the second of the Black Belt Bros with the Hitmonchan. We can outspeed with a Quick Claw and hit for well over half with our first hidden power, but we're all the way down to 3 HP as it knocks us out. Now, we did get a critical hit there, which is why I'm going to reset for this. But honestly, it's not looking great for our Unown at this point. This time we get double kick turn 1 from the Hitmonlee. Of course, a critical hit would one-shot. Instead, we get a Quick Claw activation. So we're going to the second Black Belt Bro with much better HP. Here we can now change into hidden power and just get an easy 2-hit KO because it's not like it did that much with the Ice Punch and Thunder Punch. So we managed to get through finally with the hidden power flying for those two Black Belt Bros. Now we have to see how we do against the rest of the Pokemon here, and I think Hidden Power Psychic is the obvious play. It's same type, plus it's going to deal extra damage to all these Pokemon because it's super effective. And I think from here on out, basically everything has pretty low special. So we're just going to replace our DVs with 15 in attack, and it looks like 12 in defense to get that Hidden Power Psychic. Now, one of these days, we might have to make a proper ROM hack that sets the hidden power so that it's always super effective. But for now, this is the way we're kind of hacking it in. Let's see if we get through the rest of the randos and make it to Chucky Boy. Sure enough, we do make it to Chuck here. So now it's just the question if the Hidden Power Psychic is enough to get through, since it will be our best typing against both of these Pokemon. Let's find out. So first up on the Primeape, we go for Hidden Power after it goes for Leer. We get a critical hit one-shot, so that Pokemon goes down nice and easy. That brings out the Poliwrath, which we are in a speed tie with. We do about half with the first Hidden Power. It misses Hypnosis, and we knock it out the next turn. So Chuck goes down without dealing any damage to our Unown. Now we can pick up Fly and move on in this challenge. So now I think it's worth at least going to try Jasmine, because technically we can put on a typing that is 4 times super effective against the two Magnemites. That would represent Hidden Power Ground. But I may just try to go Hidden Power Fire this entire time just to see if it does enough damage, because we would clearly want a special typing against the final Steelix. Otherwise, we'll start messing around with the typings of the opponents in order to make them weak enough against our moves. But let's just test this out and see. So Jasmine attempt number 1, we're coming in with Hidden Power Fire this first time just to see what it does. Against the first Magnemite, we get a 1-hit KO with a crit at least, so we get to knock that out and get to level 30. Second Magnemite, we don't quite knock it out, but it misses with the Thunder Wave, so we get to knock it out the next turn. That will bring out the final Steelix. Let's just see the range here. We do about 40%. It misses an Iron Tail, and then it finally manages to hit and does a lot of damage. Our real problem here, though, is the fact that I didn't recover before this battle, so I didn't have full PP. Let's go ahead and correct that mistake and then try this one again, since that could honestly be all that we need. We might just need a timely critical hit, for example, in order to get through here. I think we give the Paralyzed Cure Berry just to have that possibility of recovering from one Thunder Wave if we get it. And if we can, we may just be able to get to the Steelix just fine and deal enough damage to get through. Now, it's also worth noting that because technically Hidden Power Ground would be 4 times super effective against those two Magnemites, we could make the argument that if we could switch our Hidden Power for every Pokemon, those two would be guaranteed 1-hit KOs. I'm actually going to approximate that here by just making them Steel Ice types, since if we're doing that much with the Hidden Power Fire, then we would certainly be 1-hit KOing them if we were using Hidden Power Ground there. So if we do that, of course, we're just going to one-shot against both of these Magnemites and get back to the Steelix. And now we're going to just make sure that Steelix is the proper typing here by taking off any locked-in typings. And let's see if we can get a better range against this one. We are all the way down to 1 HP after the Iron Tail, so it's pretty clear that we're at least very close to getting knocked out. A single miss from Iron Tail would also allow us to get through here, but I don't think we're going to be able to get that level of luck by just resetting over and over again. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go to the Rocket Hideout and just get the extra levels, because by the time we get back here at a higher level, we might just be able to completely destroy that section. So we actually make it through the entire Rocket Hideout with no major issues, but we have to do a little shenanigans here and there, because for example, for this last Exeggutor, there's not like one typing that's super effective against all their Pokemon. So we're going to have to change their secondary typing to be Dragon, and we're going to use the Dragon type Hidden Power against them. Let's see how this actually works out. Of course, for the Arbok, its same type moves are unaffected, but it just wants to go for Bite because it's the strongest move. Out next comes the Murkrow. We're going to go for the Hidden Power and just get the 1-hit KO. If you had a super effective Hidden Power like Hidden Power Electric there, for example, it would go down nice and easy. The Gloom is the only Pokemon for whom this change actually has an effect, because normally it would want to go Acid here, I think, because that's the strongest move, but who knows, maybe it goes Absorb, but it might not matter if we just one-shot here. We do not, but it goes Sweet Scent, so that's perfectly fine too. The whole point is that there's no real typing that we could have put on that last Pokemon that would have allowed us to properly set things up, because normally we would want Hidden Power Psychic there as the strongest typing against that Pokemon, given that it would give us our same type attack bonus. Still, we managed to get through, so I guess this is perfectly fine. And for now, we can move on to Pryce, who should be incredibly interesting. The first two Pokemon would normally be weak against electric type moves. Everything on the team, though, is weak to grass, so I think that's the type that we go for, is the Hidden Power Grass here, to approximate how we would do with a super effective Hidden Power typing. So that's what I'm going to run with here as we get into Pryce's gym, and let's just see if that turns out to be enough to get through the gym leader. So Pryce attempt number 1, I came in without healing, rip. And it also looks like our typing did not take properly. So let's go ahead and fix both of these issues very quickly and try that fight again. So back to Pryce again with the proper DVs. Now we have Hidden Power Grass that does massive damage, and we get a 2-hit KO on the Seal. That brings us to the Dugong, where honestly you'd be better off with a physical Hidden Power typing, but we are going to be able to 3-hit KO that Pokemon. I think Hidden Power Rock might actually be better there. Now we get to the Piloswine though, which does have lower special defense, and this is going to be a 2-hitter. If we just get a single Blizzard miss, we will win. Now, because we're not quite getting the range that we want on that Dugong, we're getting a 3-hit KO range. I'm also going to test what happens if we have the Miracle Seed on with Hidden Power Grass, just because it would allow us to deal a little extra damage. Of course, it doesn't affect anything against Seal. That's just a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. But now on the Dugong, let's just see what the range looks like. We might be able to get a 2-hitter with a lucky roll. We just don't quite get it that time. It's also worth noting that if we get this speed drop from Icy Wind, we're going to be slower than that Dugong. Whereas if we don't have the speed drop, we're faster here. So that is a potential win condition, is to get here without the Icy Wind. Still, we managed to get through the Seal, so we've made it to the final Piloswine, where yet again, we're slower because of the Icy Wind and Blizzard takes us down. So I think we have to just reset for a run where we do not get the Icy Wind speed drop from the Seal, and this time it goes Headbutt. So that's perfectly fine. That will allow us to be faster than the Dugong, giving us a much better chance of actually getting through this one. And as we get to level 33 against the Piloswine, we do about half, and again, we would just need the single Blizzard miss. It doesn't seem like the Miracle Seed is doing that much for us here, so we might be better off with a Gold Berry to try to get through. This time we get a critical hit on Dugong though, which allows us to 2-shot there, and now we're back to Piloswine. It goes Fury Attack this time, and that allows us to get the victory. So it's not pretty against Pryce. Even with a super effective Hidden Power typing against all of his Pokemon, you can still find situations where you're not really winning that fight. Still, with that done, we can now go back to Jasmine at a slightly higher level. We're going to go back to the Hidden Power Fire for this one. And honestly, our hope is that with the Hidden Power Fire, we should at this level, I think, now be 1-hit KOing against both of the Magnemites. So there will be no need for shenanigans there. And then it's just a question of how we do on the final Steelix. We might want to go with a Charcoal here in order to get a better range, but we'll just have to see. Now, one thing I'm not sure about is if these held items even affect the damage of Hidden Power, since it's technically classed as a normal type move, at least in the move status screen here. So it could be a situation where the Miracle Seed was not actually affecting the damage at all of this move. And if that turns out to be the case, then we might actually be better off just with some sort of berry in order to try to get through tough spots. I'm not sure we'll survive enough to even use a Gold Berry here against the Steelix though, so we're just going to have to see how this actually works out. So Jasmine attempt number 2 after we've come back from Pryce. Here we just purely one-shot against the Magnemite with the Hidden Power Fire, so we get through to the Steelix 100% of the time now. And against the Steelix, it looks like a 2-hit KO, so she hits an Iron Tail, but we simply knock her out the next turn, getting to level 34. And just like that, we have in fact managed to progress in the game through 7 gyms with the SuperUnown having always super effective typings. I would expect that this Pokemon can now get through the entire Rocket storyline without any major issues. We'll have to get up to a little bit of type manipulation shenanigans against rival number 4, just because his team is so diverse. But then against Claire, I mean, Hidden Power Dragon is effectively the super effective type against all of her team. I'm not sure if we'll get through or not. We might need some Paralyzed Cure Berry luck. We might need a crit. I don't know, but we'll check that out when we get there. For now, MantisFan7, thank you so much for your continued support of the channel. Already 9 months as a channel member. Really appreciate that support. And yeah, your SuperUnown is going to continue through this challenge, and maybe it just beats everything because it's always going to have the best typing. We'll just have to find out and see. Anyway, with that done, it's time to get to our last 2 challengers, Sudowoodo and Gligar. And this is where I get really nervous in this one. I'm not sure how this is going to go. Still, we're going to lead off with Sudowoodo, which is coming into this section with Rollout, Mimic, Flail, and Low Kick. And yeah, I'm just not sure if we're going to get through anything here because we're weak against all of the gyms. Plus, we're insanely slow. So I think we're going to have to go for Rollout strats. We have Ice Punch, Fire Punch, and Thunder Punch available as moves if we need them. We will learn Rock Slide in 1 more level. And maybe, just maybe, we find a way to get through Chuck due to him missing, but I'm not sure if we get through the Black Belt Bros is the problem. So I think for now what we do is we go through the Rocket Hideout. Let's get all the levels that we can. We'll try Pryce since at least Rollout is a same type move and will be super effective against one of his Pokemon. But then we might just be in a tough spot when we have to go down to Chucky Boy's gym. We'll just have to see. Maybe the defense is enough. Now I get the chance to learn Rock Slide here. here. Now I'm going to learn this and I'm going to learn it over Mimic. The reason is because I can't really think of a whole lot of great spots to mimic a move from the opponent. In most situations, our opponents are going to have a super effective move against us, and we're not really going to be able to survive to go mimic strats anyway. So I think this is the best play. The only case I could really think of where mimic might be useful in this immediate section at least would be trying to mimic Hypnosis from Poliwrath after it missed Hypnosis, but it might just be going for Surf the whole way against us, in which case that move is completely useless. So let's just see. Rock Slide is effectively our strongest same type move, so we absolutely have to learn it somehow. And with that move on the moveset, we should be able to make our way through the Rocket Hideout without too much difficulty. I decided to keep Rollout here because of the fact that we can get Defense Curl later on, so that could be a legit strat, especially since it's the same type move, but I'm honestly just not sure if it's ever actually going to be better than Rock Slide. We'll just have to see. So of course we easily get through the Rocket Hideout. We make it to the final Executive where I'm out of PP in Rock Slide, so I'm just going to go for Rollout here, but let's just see how this actually works. Against the first Arbok, Rollout is the only obvious play. Yes, it knows Bite and could flinch us, but we get a nice 2-hit KO there. Gloom comes out next and gets destroyed as we get to level 30. Murkrow's faster, but Pursuit doesn't do enough, so we easily win right there on the first attempt against that Executive. But now we have to go try our hands at Pryce. And we've kept the Rollout so that we have the possibility of trying to set up that move on the first Seal and then going into maybe Rock Slide later on, but we might just be able to one-hit KO everything provided that we get a move first, or we can get some Quick Claw activations. So that's basically going to be my strategy. I think we have to go Quick Claw here because of the fact that we're just so incredibly slow. We'll definitely be outsped by the Dugong, and that might be too much for us. So we're going to test this out and see, but if we can build up the Rollout a lot, we'll technically do more with that move than we would do with our other moves against the final Piloswine. But let's just see how this actually goes. So Pryce attempt number 1, we lead off with the Rollout on the Seal. This looks like it might be a 2-hit KO. We get the speed drop and then we miss a Rollout. Are you kidding me? Still, its Aurora Beam isn't doing that much. And now we just need a Quick Claw activation. The Piloswine comes out and goes for Fury Attack, and then he Hyper Potions, allowing us to knock that Pokemon out. And Dugong hits Aurora Beam, but it didn't do that much, so we actually win on the first attempt. Are you kidding me? Pryce actually not a factor at all in this. I was sure that he was actually going to have a chance against Sudowoodo, but apparently not. Now, of course, a big part of that is because I'm misremembering. I'm so used to rock ground types that I always think I'm weak against the ice type moves with a rock type, but that's only if you're a ground type. Oh man. So yeah, Sudowoodo gets through there just fine, but now we're gonna have to see how we do against these next two gym leaders who do have super effective moves. We might want to try our hand at Jasmine first, given that at least her two Magnemites do not have any super effective moves against us. We do have Low Kick as a super effective move against them, and I think we'll have enough speed to get through that team, assuming that we can find any way to get through the final Steelix. Still, with that being said, I want to lead off first by just seeing what the Black Belt Bros look like here in this gym. So let's see how they actually go. The Hitmonlee comes out first, and we don't really have any good moves. Like, Rollout and Rock Slide are resisted. So we have Low Kick, which is 50 base power, or we have Flail. Now, if we can move first, we can get the flinch just like that. We get two Quick Claw activations in a row, allowing us to flinch the Hitmonlee twice and get the victory. And that brings us to Hitmonchan. Now, if it goes Ice Punch, that's its only super effective move. Sure enough, it goes for it. We can see a critical hit Rock Slide did pretty good damage there, though. And then we get a Quick Claw, allowing us to just low kick that Pokemon down. So even with me misclicking and using Rock Slide, it did pretty decent damage there, and we were able to get through the first two traders. Let's just see if we can get through the randos. We're really benefiting from the fact that Low Kick can flinch opponents, and the fact that we have pretty high defense, so we're not actually taking that much damage from these Pokemon. Sure enough, we do make it to Chuck. I had one reset here on this last Black Belt Lung before I got to him. It seems to be a range depending on whether or not he's getting crits with his Karate Chops from that Primeape. Still, we managed to get through, so it's time for Chucky Boy. This could be very random, but I think I'm going Quick Claw strats here. Let's see if this works out. So Chuck attempt number 1, we're going to lead off with low kick on the Primeape. We get a flinch after the Quick Claw activates, and this turns out to be a 3-hit KO on that Pokemon. Poliwrath comes out next, and it just goes Surf here and one-shots me. And it is 8 points in speed faster than us, so there's no way that we're going to outspeed there. So yeah, definitely not looking great. Here for now, I'm just going to try resetting once or twice on this though before I go for different moves or different strategies. This time we get a Dynamic Punch miss, and then it finally manages to hit and knock me out. Now it's worth noting that on low health, we could go for flail strats here, so I'm going to make sure that I actually try that as well. We get a nice critical hit on Primeape this time. Though we did take a Leer, that means Dynamic Punch does a lot of damage to us. Still, it misses the next Dynamic Punch. We hit Flail. We hit Flail again. We would need one more hit on the Poliwrath, and we just did not get it. But otherwise, we might have a chance there on fairly low health to flail that Pokemon down. So we're going to kind of hope that we get a better range here from the Primeape. Instead, we get 2 Leers. Still, I'm going to go for Flail expecting the Dynamic Punch, but we just couldn't survive a single hit at that point. Now, it's probably also worth checking what Rollout would do here, since it is a same type move and would allow us to build up. Just because the Flail strat is kind of random, it really depends on us not getting bad ranges and misses. And once we take a Leer, we're probably unlikely to actually survive enough hits. Here, it turns out that Rollout just 3 shots against the first Primeape. We get a miss from Dynamic Punch from Poliwrath twice in a row, so Rollout does get the job done just on my second attempt using that move. So it seems like Rollout strats are the strategy that works best with this Sudowoodo against Chucky Boy, even though it's a resisted move. The same type attack bonus plus the fact that it can build up is what really helps you there. But now with that done, there's nothing to do but come back to Jasmine. We've got low kick as a strategy here. Effectively, we can try to get the flinches. We could also go dig here against the 2 Magnemites, or we could go for Mud Slap strats. We'll see what the range is with low kick on the Magnemites, but if it's not getting the 1-hit KO, then I think adding dig on over flail might be the best play, since we're not going to be faster than things, so we can't generally take advantage of flail as well as a faster Pokemon could, knowing that it's on low health and then using that move. We're often having to judge what the range might be after we take a hit. So I think that's probably the best play here. Now, as far as held items, I think our best strategy is to go in with a Goldberry here because we're probably going to need to heal against the Steelix. Like I said, if we don't one-shot with the low kick, we'll replace Flail with Dig, and that will get us at least to the Steelix every time on full health, I believe. So let's just see. We are, of course, faster than the Magnemites. We go low kick here. We don't quite get the 1-hitter, so that tells us that dig is probably required. The Steelix comes out second, though, and here we're faster. We get a flinch turn 1. We get a critical hit turn 2. Iron Tail does a lot. We heal up with a Goldberry, and here I think we just need 2 flinches, and we might have a chance of getting through this. It turns out that low kick is a range against those Magnemites as well, so that may be what we need, is just to get the range with the low kick and then hope to get enough flinches on the Steelix to actually get through here. Now, this time we do get her to use the Hyper Potion on the Steelix, and we survive a second Iron Tail after we use that Goldberry. So the Goldberry is helping here. It does give us a range where we can sometimes survive an extra hit. The problem is we still just don't seem to be doing enough damage. And as far as moves that are stronger against the Steelix, the main one is Dynamic Punch, which would be double the power of low kick, but without the chance to flinch. And I think we have to have the Goldberry on for at least the chance to survive a second Iron Tail. This time we get the flinch though, and that allows us to knock out the Steelix. So we do get to the final Magnemite. We don't quite get the range to one-shot, but it just misses Supersonic, so we knock it out the next turn, getting the level 34. Is Sudowoodo consistent in this section? No, it's absolutely not, but it is possible to get through within reasonable attempts here. Got to go for some some rollout strats against Pryce and Chuck. You got to go for some quick claw strats to get through the black belt bros. And then against Jasmine, it's about the flinches with the low kick. If you can get those, you have a shot. Like I said, we could go dynamic punch as well, since that move would at least confuse the Steelix and possibly gain us turns that way. It's just a little bit more YOLO than this. I'm not sure if Fire Punch would have done a lot for us there, keeping in mind that our special attack is like less than half of our attack stat. It might just not be strong enough to get through. But hey, Sudowoodo continues up to this point. It's going to go on to Claire, where it's going to have another nightmare of a time, I think, because I think at least one of the Dragonairs is running Surf, as is the Kingdra, but maybe somehow we get a rollout strat to work there. We'll just have to get there and see. For now, let's just move on to today's final Pokemon, which is Gligar. And Gligar is the Pokemon that I'm the most worried about here. We're running Hidden Power Dark, Sand Attack, Fury Cutter, and Harden. We can learn Headbutt and Strength. We'll get Slash at level 36. But as all of us know, Gligar does not learn any ground type moves, at least not via TM or via level up. This is why Earthquake Gligar is a special stadium only Pokemon. We've already done a run with that Earthquake Gligar for the full game, and while that Pokemon performed pretty well overall in the full game challenge, this one doesn't get any of that advantage. It's just going to be stuck with these insanely weak moves. Nothing same type. I'm honestly not sure if we even have a shot of getting through this section. Fury Cutter might be the strategy in some parts, but I'm not sure if we even get through Pryce with our 4 times weakness. I'm going to go into the Rocket Hideout first. I think that's going to be the best way to progress. Hidden Power Dark probably isn't that useful going forward because we're more of a physical attacker. I'm pretty sure we only had that move so that we could find a way through the Ghost Gym. And Fury Cutter, I'm not super confident is going to do enough. So we really want to get to Slash, but we might need to add on Headbutt right away just to have a decent damage dealing move. Now we do have the advantage at least that Fury Cutter can build up against opponents, giving us at least one potential way to get through otherwise tough fights. But we're going to have to see if it's actually enough against all of these opponents that resist the bug type. We might just not get enough turns to knock things out. But basically my game plan is this. I'm going to go through the Rocket Hideout to get as many levels as possible. Then we will go try to take on Chucky Boy. Then we'll have to either try Pryce or Jasmine, and I'm not sure which is going to be best. We'll just kind of have to see at that point what works. So we do manage to get to the final Rocket Executive in the Hideout. So at least this part of the game is just fine. I'm going to set up Fury Cutter here on the Arbok, even though it's resisted. Once we get this move fully set up, I think we'll just destroy their last 2 Pokemon. Sure enough, we take that one down. Murkrow comes out. Fury Cutter's at least neutral there, so we get a 1-hitter. It's going to be neutral against the Gloom as well, getting a 1-hit KO. So just like that, we do manage to get through at least the first of these kind of pseudo boss battles here, though I mean basically everything gets through the Rocket Hideout, so we can't really feel too confident. But now let's go see if Chucky Boy is possible or not. Now it's worth noting that the Earthquake Gligar that you can get from Pokemon Stadium 2 of course comes in with Earthquake, Slash, and Wing Attack on its starting moveset. I think it also has like Poison Sting or something like that that's terrible, but the rest of those moves are strong enough that you can get through at least to this section all right. Where I found I ran into a major wall in that run was of course Pryce. Earthquake was good enough to get me through Jasmine, and because of our type advantage against Chuck, we were able to get through there as well without too much risk. I mean, yes, he will go for Surf with the Poliwrath, but that's only one Pokemon in the gym. But when I reached Pryce, the 4 times super effective ice moves were proving to be a major wall. Maybe, just maybe, we can find a way through here though, especially if we have a build-up move like Fury Cutter. I don't think I had that on my moveset last time, so we'll just see how that actually works. For now though, we're going to come into the fighting gym currently with Hidden Power Dark and Fury Cutter on our moveset. I think we're going to have to forget Hidden Power Dark pretty soon though, unless Fury Cutter can build up enough to knock out this Hitmonlee, because we just don't have any moves that are effective against these fighting type Pokemon. So while we did get through the first of the 2 Black Belt Bros, we're now to the Hitmonchan, where we see Ice Punch just knocked us out nice and easy. So yeah, I'm going to replace Hidden Power Dark with Headbutt. That gives us at least a neutrally effective move that can also flinch opponents. I think it's going to give us a better shot of actually getting through this section. Now with Headbutt, we just two-shot there against the Hitmonlee. Out next comes the Hitmonchan, and if we just flinch opponents, they can't even damage us that turn. We can see Ice Punch from a Hitmonchan took us down by about 40% there. So if a Hitmonchan is doing good damage against you, you know that you're going to take a lot of damage from Pryce's Pokemon. Still, we can get through the rest of these randos, I think, pretty easily with the Headbutt now on our moveset. So let's just use that to try to get through to Chucky Boy. So sure enough, we get to Chuck. Let's just see if he throws like usual, or is he actually going to try to win? First up, we've got the Primeape. I'm going Headbutt right here. This is going to be a 2-hit KO as we get a Leer from that Pokemon. We get to level 34 as the Poliwrath comes out. I'm going to go Headbutt right here. It misses Hypnosis turn 1. We Headbutt again. It misses Hypnosis turn 2, and then we get a critical hit. So Chuck he always shows how he can throw before the battle, but he likes to show how he can throw in battle too. But with that done, I think that's our only easy gym fight in this entire section. I think after this, we're basically going to be in trouble against the next 2 gym leaders. So we really shouldn't get too cocky about just getting a win against Chucky Boy. I think our next best chance is against Jasmine though, since at least we're immune to electric type moves. So the 2 Magnemites can't do that much. Maybe we can build up Fury Cutter enough that it does decent damage. Maybe we can go for some flinches. I'm honestly not sure right here. Rock Smash is a strategy that is possible as well, and that would at least give us some sort of super effective damage here, though it's incredibly weak. So I'm honestly just not sure what the best strategy will be here against Jasmine, but I'm going to test everything. So Jasmine, attempt number 1. We're coming in as we are first, just to see how this works out. Of course, we know Harden, and we can set up that move. We'll even do less damage when we hit ourselves in confusion if we set up a bunch of Hardens here. We probably also want to lower the accuracy of the Magnemite since it's hitting all these sonic booms. So we're probably not getting through just like that. We may need to go for some Sand Attack first here in order to lower its accuracy, since Sonic Boom is a legit strat against us, and it does not care about whether or not we've set up Harden. Now though, we can go into Fury Cutter only to see that it really does no damage against the Magnemites. So we might need a lot of luck here. Here, I'm at least going to see what Fury Cutter does once it gets fully built up. It does 5-hit KO against the first Magnemite. Against the second Magnemite, it's going to be a 2-hitter. Now Steelix comes out. We have a fully built up Fury Cutter, and with a critical hit, we did 27 damage. So it's probably doing about 14 damage per hit normally, and then we get a miss. So not much we can do there. We're going to set up all the sand attacks here, hoping that maybe, just maybe, we can manage to just get a god tier number of misses, but it does not work out. Still, that makes me think that the best strategy is probably just a couple sand attacks on the first Magnemite. We'll go Harden if we can get enough misses, which we're getting on this attempt. It's like missing everything after just 2 sand attacks. So after that, I'll just get my Harden fully set up, and now I'm going back into the Fury Cutter. We know it's going to be a 5-hitter, but if this Pokemon can't land its moves, we should be able to knock it out. That brings out the Steelix second, and we already have a bunch of Hardens set up, so it might not deal as much damage as last time. Sure enough, it doesn't. So if we don't get a critical hit and we can hit the Fury Cutters, these are going to be a 4-hit KO. Of course, she's going to heal with the Hyper Potion in that, but we're only taking 9 damage per hit from that Iron Tail. Then, of course, we have to miss though. So now we're in bad shape because Fury Cutter's not going to do that much. We're down to 1 HP and it knocks me out. If we didn't miss that Fury Cutter though, we might have actually had a shot. So I'm going to stick with the strategy of setting up a couple of sand attacks on the first Magnemite and then going really hard on the Hardens, since we know if we get it fully built up, we will be able to survive an awful lot of hits against that Steelix. And then we're going to set up the Fury Cutter here so that we deal as much damage as possible. This time he sends out this second Magnemite before the Steelix. That's perfectly fine. He just misses a Supersonic there. And now we can start going for our Fury Cutter on the Steelix. We get the miss right here. So now I'm going to go really hard on accuracy against this Steelix, hoping that it misses a bunch of times to allow us to reset up our Fury Cutter, given that we have maxed out our defense stat. So now on -6 accuracy, I'm going to go back into building up Fury Cutter, just hoping that we can get all the way back to the setup that we had previously. She Hyper Potions right here. We're just continuing to whittle away with Fury Cutter, and if we don't miss this time, we will win. So sure enough, we do. Gligar manages to get through Jasmine. It is not pretty, but between the Hardens and Sand Attacks plus Fury Cutter, you can get that one to go within at least a reasonable number of attempts. It's not something that you would want to try with anything less than max DVs, number one. And number two, your mileage is really going to vary because it's all about the accuracy luck first on that first Magnemite, then setting up all of those Hardens and the Fury Cutter. If you can have a Goldberry there, you can also slam on the Goldberry to recover HP. And once you've got all the Hardens set up, you're going to be able to heal a significant number of turns worth of damage against that Steelix. So just keep that in mind. But now we have come to what I think is the true wall for this Pokemon. It is Pryce. Pryce is actually going to get a chance to get some get back at our Pokemon because Gligar here is going to be coming in without a lot of great moves and being 4 times weak to ice. I'm going to see if we can manage some sort of like Sand Attack Fury Cutter strat or maybe Headbutt strats to get through here. Let's just test this out and see. I'm going to try the Headbutts first just to see what kind of ranges we get, and then we may switch into that Fury Cutter strat with some Sand Attacks. Let's see how it goes. So Pryce attempt number 1, first with the Headbutt. We're going to get a 2-hit KO on Seal. We can see Icy Wind did a lot, but we do knock that Pokemon out. We're still going to be faster than the Dugong when it comes out. So we go Headbutt here. We get a flinch. This looks like it's going to be a 3 or 4 hit KO. Aurora Beam just destroys me though from 75% health. Let's try this one again because maybe one more flinch could have gotten us through there. This time we get an Icy Wind miss. So we're going to the Dugong on full health. We get a flinch turn 1. It hits Aurora Beam turn 2. We survive. Now we can knock it out. We've made it to the final Piloswine. Let's just see what the range is with the Headbutt here. It does about a third, 36 damage. That might be a 3-hit KO if that range holds up, but of course Blizzard simply knocks me out. We would need a couple of flinches here to get through with the Headbutt strat. So now I'm going to test a Fury Cutter strat just to compare how this actually works. So here I'm going to just start setting up Fury Cutter on the Seal. Yes, it's going to use moves like Aurora Beam on me, which are very effective, but maybe if we get the Fury Cutter fully set up, we can get a good range on the Dugong. We managed to one-shot that Pokemon with a fully set up Fury Cutter. Let's see if we get the same on the Piloswine. It holds on with just a sliver, 5 HP remaining. That would mean that we need a critical hit on the Piloswine. So we lose that attempt, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to give a King's Rock to my Pokemon. The logic here is actually pretty simple. The King's Rock allows us to get a flinch on the opponent even with a move like Fury Cutter. So if we can manage to build up fully using the King's Rock, we might just be able to knock out our opponents and get through this one. So back again against Pryce. We get the Icy Wind turn 1. That's perfectly fine. We're just going to build up the Fury Cutter on the first Seal. Of course, we're going to be on low health by the end of that. Dugong is out next. We'd still get the 1-hit KO there. Piloswine, we actually get the KO on this attempt, even without a flinch. It's apparently a range on the final Piloswine. Are you kidding me? So in spite of the fact that we don't have Earthquake, Wing Attack, or Slash here, it turns out that Fury Cutter is just barely enough for Gligar to get through Pryce. And when you add on that that move was enough to get us through Jasmine, this is insane. Like, Gligar, I think most people would agree, has one of the worst move sets in Gen 2. But it just turns out that the TM you get from the second gym, Fury Cutter, at least as long as you can combine it with some accuracy and some defense boosting strats, can actually be really, really strong in certain situations. This is insane. So I never would have predicted that this Pokemon could actually get through Pryce, especially based on the ranges that I was getting last time. But again, like I said, in the last run that I did with that Earthquake Gligar from Stadium 2, I just assumed, hey, Earthquake's by far and away my best move. Slash has a high critical hit chance. Like, why would you go for a 10 base power bug move? Even if it can build up over time, it just wouldn't make that much sense, right? Turns out I was wrong. So with that, we have managed to progress on minimum battles through this section. Gligar is just going to continue to defy expectations, possibly. Claire could be really, really tough again for this Pokemon, though. I'm not sure how we're going to do there. I think we have to build up a ton of Fury Cutter if we're going to be able to get through the Rival's Haunter without getting cursed. There's just a lot of questions in this next section, but we'll address all of those when we get there. For now, Gligar actually gets through 7 gyms on minimum battles, and it's about to get Slash, which we'll probably go ahead and learn over Headbutt, since Headbutt could just be relearned if we decide that it turns out to be better than Slash. But Slash gives us that higher crit chance, which might be important. We might just be running with Slash and Fury Cutter for a while, though. That could be insane. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the episode, so let's see what we got for next time and wrap this one up. But with that done, we have now reached a very nice number of Pokemon getting through this section. 69 successful challengers through Jasmine. We didn't add any new Pokemon to that OPTMs list today, which is pretty nuts, especially given how much of a disadvantage I thought some of our Pokemon had here. Add to that all of the channel member picks managed to get through. Sorry, I'll get that Unown moved down into the completed member picks section after I finish this. And yeah, this is turning out not to be as hard as I would have expected it to be. We, of course, have had some Pokemon drop rare candies, though none in this episode, which is incredibly surprising to me. But it just goes to show that there are a lot of strategies available in Gen 2, and I think a lot of people would just write off certain strategies as not viable, not reasonable, but in some cases they turn out to be perfectly fine as long as you're willing to go for a little bit of luck. But hey, I mean, everybody needs a little luck sometimes, so just take that for what you will. We have managed to progress at least to this point in the game with an awful lot of Pokemon, and next time we've got a bunch of challengers that I think are going to do pretty well as well. We are coming in with Seadra, which means we're also going to get Kingdra next time, Seaking, Starmie, Mr. Mime, Scyther, which means we're going to do the Gen 2 Scizor as well. Steelix is coming in. Then we've got Snubbull and Granbull, and then finally Quillfish. Now it's a little bit less in terms of the number of challengers next time, but that's because I'm planning to do a bunch of member picks. You see, because we've got the Scyther in there, I think this is a perfect chance to get our bug type member picks done in the next episode. That means that we're going to be coming with our Pinsir, our Fortress, our Shuckle, and our Heracross all in the next episode, so that we can just do a very buggy run through this section of the game. And honestly, member picks are OP, so I think they're going to be just fine, though Fortress might have some issues since it doesn't have a super wide move pool. And honestly, Shuckle, we'll just have to see. Its defenses are super high, but it might be reliant on some kind of cheesy strats to actually get through. As far as our actual challengers, though, I think all the water types are going to get through just fine. It's going to be very interesting to see the steel types in the next episode, especially as we go up against Chuck's gym, where they're going to be at somewhat of a disadvantage. Normal types, I think, are going to be perfectly fine. So what I think is most interesting in the next episode is really going to be that Scyther. It's going to be able to run some of these Fury Cutter strats just like we saw with the Gligar, so it might be okay, but it is going to be running into a few spots where it doesn't have the greatest typing against the opponents, so it might be a little more random. I think we've got some double team strats to help with that particular Pokemon, so we're probably getting through, but tell me what you think down below. Anyway, that does it for this one. Obviously, I had to take a couple weeks off last month, so I've just finished this. I'm just exporting and uploading right now the Houndoom run that was supposed to be up for Halloween. Apologies for that, but you guys are probably getting 2 videos this week, and we'll just see what pace I manage through the rest of the year. I'm going to be putting out as many as I can, especially since I know a lot of people have holidays and other things where you might be wanting to hang out with me. But if you just like having these videos on in the background, there is a link to the playlist down below. You can go back and rewatch the previous sections or just put it on as background while you're getting ready for your holidays. And of course, every view helps me immensely. So I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who does watch to the end of these videos, all of the channel members who continue to support, and let's just run it up through the rest of 2025 and get into 2026. Man, I'm so excited for the next year where I am planning to be doing this full time for a while. So that's going to be really exciting. You guys might be getting even more videos than usual when we get to next year. So just stay tuned for that. Anyway, that does it for this one. Appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next one. Later.